Mike, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Holyoke School Committee meeting. I apologize, it's 6:29 p.m. Roll call, please.
Here.
Present.
Present. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Just give us 1 minute as everyone starts coming back in and being let back in. We were on the unified sports team. I believe we finally figured out the Zoom link and the ability to be able to hear the members that are going to be presenting today via Zoom. So once we have everyone, just go ahead right into the presentation for the unified sports team. And thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Doctor, can you say something?
Hi, Anthony. It's Steve Mahoney, one of your biggest fans. You're doing a great job. I can't wait to hear Andrea Lubold extol your virtues as our new superintendent. No pressure, Lubold.
Thank you. That worked.
I'm glad to hear, because the last few times I was saying bad things about you.
Well, Ms. Lubold, we just want to welcome you and anybody on the team. I think we got this tech thing figured out. So if you could just come off mic, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having Unified Basketball on tonight. I'm Coach Lubold. I'm the head coach of our Unified Basketball team. I have the pleasure to coach these great players. Today we have Captain Ari Burks with us and partner Noah Vargas. We are still playing right now. We have our jamboree, end-of-year jamboree on Friday against Chicopee Comp. We're having a great season. We're 2-3. We had 2 really close losses to Northampton by 1 basket and 2 baskets for the second game. So we're having a really great season. It's been competitive. It's been fun. They're working really hard. We call ourselves a family. We're really close. We have a great time. And it's such a positive experience for myself and everybody on the team. Do you want, Noah was going to speak about his experience. Is that where we want to go with this, or?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So Noah, I'll let you come on.
Hi, I'm Noah Vargas, and Unified. When I first joined Unified, I was like, what does that mean? I didn't know what it meant at all. Originally I was gonna apply for track, but then now our athletics director pointed me towards Unified, and once I was like, what was that? She explained it, and it sounded like a really fun sport, and I have played basketball before, so I was always down for it. But once I start playing, I learned like what it's like how it feels like. I like being a leader, and I like helping the kids out, and I feel like it's a little less competitive, but it's still got there, and that's what I like about it. I like how you can still have fun, which I personally don't feel that way about basketball itself. But when it's unified, I feel like it's like a completely different experience, and I love the experience myself. That's how I feel.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas.
Nope.
And I did want to acknowledge everyone on the team. We have Noah Vargas, Yamaya Perez, Clarice Matos, Marianne Torres Rivera, Armando Zambrano, Emmanuel Rivera, Calvin Thompson, Nathaniel Santiago, Denise Figueroa, Jeremy Custodio, Ari Burks, Samantha Nadeau, Logan Turgeon, Seal Velasquez, and Jaden Rivera. They're all part of the unified basketball team. Was there anyone else, Ms. Lubold, that wanted to speak?
I think it was just Noah, unless Ari wants to. Ari, did you want to say anything? Come on, Captain Burks? No?
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
She's a leader by example type of captain.
No.
I just wanted to thank you all for coming tonight. I've had the opportunity to go to 2 games myself. Got to figure out a way to get that door unlocked in the parking lot because I had to find my way to the game. But it's really cool to see how much fun you guys are having, how you're working together as a team and competing. I just think it's great. And thank you for coming.
Does anyone else
Thank
have
you.
any questions, comments? Mr. Culmer?
Yes, I was able to get to 2 games already, and I plan on getting to more. But when I see all these wonderful children out there playing and participating, and one thing I always watch in games is sportsmanship. And the sportsmanship by Northampton and Holyoke was wonderful. We ought to be very proud, the city of Holyoke, to have such a wonderful program, and we should continue it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Absolutely, I agree. Ms. Burks?
So this program is absolutely amazing, and the fact that Mel brought it in means the absolute world. I keep bugging her. I think we need more sports, right, for our athletes. We need to get some softball, some soccer, all the good stuff, Mel. But I have to say, in regards to our coaches, Coach Lubold and Coach Graney, the one thing that makes them stand out as coaches is that they don't see a disability. They only see the abilities of these athletes. Superintendent Soto, you put out there a kindness challenge that speaks of kindness and compassion. And I have to say, Noah and Marianne are the epitome of that challenge. So when you go to a game, it makes your heart feel good. So last game in Northampton, some of our athletes, like we were getting kind of tumbled. They got a couple kids that were just 3-point ringers. Amazing game. But you could tell, like, our athletes, like Noah and Marianne, they rally around our kids and they block all the other kids so they can get their shot. They make sure that every child gets their moment of fame. They make sure every child gets to take the shot and get the basket. And not only our kids, but they did it for the other team's kids as well. So that is the epitome of kindness and compassion. And it's instilled in our students and our athletes. But they cared not only about our team, but they cared about the other team as well. And, I think we need to do something for them to honor them and respect them, because the love that they show to the athletes, it's amazing. And it makes your heart feel really, really good, and it needs to be acknowledged. And I'm hoping that we can get other athletes that want to step up and be partners as well, because it's good. It's one thing that Holyoke excels in and does well, partnering our typical peers with non-typical peers. And that partnership is something that we started in Metcalf, and it's something that we do really well in this district. It needs to be applauded. And I thank Mel for bringing this back. And I thank Coach Lubold and Coach Graney for all their love, because, they make it happen. It's amazing. And I hope you guys, if you get the chance Friday night, over at Comp. Our athletes are going to be playing. It's the whole ceremony of the Special Olympics. So if you can make it, it'd be amazing. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just to highlight that ceremony, the Jamboree on Friday, the opening ceremonies are about 3:15 at Chicopee Comp. It's a great time to see all the teams from the area process in and be acknowledged. And then our first game is at 4:05 and our second game at 5:15, all at Chicopee Comp. So if you can be there and join us, it'd be awesome. Love to see the support come out for our kids. Our kids did an awesome job this year, and we'll continue as we go into spring track and have our unified track program.
I'm bummed out right now because it's this Friday and I have a meeting that Friday. Because if there's something that I love is going to those games. And I really miss the fact that I haven't been able to be there for this season for basketball, but I've been there for the track. I've been there for the other basketball, and it is heartwarming to see the teamwork and the collaboration, and even from the other teams and the parents that are out on the stands, as well as we cheer on not only for our own teams, but we're cheering on and rooting on for the other teams. So I really love this the unified team. I mean, I thank you, Mel, for bringing that, and hoping that we can continue expanding it and offer different opportunities for all of our students. Thank you again. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Garcia. The Jamboree.
Mel's opening ceremonies again are at 3:45.
3:15, I believe, is the opening ceremonies. First games start at 3:30, so we're in the second round of games at 4:05.
4:05.
Okay.
4:05 is first Holyoke game.
All right.
Chicopee Comp. The opening ceremonies are actually really cool because there's representation from every district.
I'm going to try my best to be there, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you again so much, Ari. Good luck this Friday. And you too, Noah.
Thank you. Our next student showcase, I want to ask Miss McKenna to come off mic and Miss Jourdain to come off mic. McKenna.
So I first just want to give a shout out to Coach Lubold and Mel Martin for, I just want to echo the thoughts that were said, but I also just want to say I often sit behind the team when I'm at the game, and to hear the specific comments that Coach Lubold said to every single kid when they come off that court and says, this is what you did a great job with. This is what I saw you do. It really makes each student feel recognized and a part of the team. And when she described them as a family, you really feel that family feel when you are there and how each student is recognized. And Mel goes over and gives every single one of those kids a high five and says, you're what keeps the team going. You just feel the joy. So it just is really good. So just I want to shout out them as well. I am here. Jackie Jourdain is a very busy lady, so we've had a hard time making this happen. So I am here because I'm excited to be able to introduce her as the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Award for Excellence, Academic Excellence. I'm going to talk a little bit about the things she does, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be exhausted after you hear me talk about the things that she does, because she's a pretty amazing student. Jackie is a part of our Student Government Association. She's part of our Student Advisory Council. She's a teaching assistant. She's been in the orchestra for 4 years. She plays volleyball, basketball, and softball. She's on the Schools Match Wits team. This year alone, Jackie has taken AP Physics. She's taking AP Physics, AP World, AP Lit, AP Calc. My brain hurts from just saying those 4 AP classes, as well as some dual enrollment classes. If you look at her transcript over her 4 years, she started her AP courses last year. And is just a phenomenal student. Some of the things some of the teachers had to say about her, Jackie is a leader in the classroom as well as in student government. She is academically gifted and a scholar on all levels. If I could work in a lab where we design the ideal student, I'd likely create Jackie. She works very hard every day on every assignment that I ask her to do. and brings a superb attention to detail in these tasks. However, my favorite Jackie moments aren't when I give her an A+ on her tests, which I often do. It's when she doesn't get something and insists on clarifying. It's when I give a fast explanation and she refuses to accept it. It's when she demonstrates that when strong students don't get something the first time, they relentlessly pursue that understanding. Jackie is smart. Jackie is reflective. Jackie is talented. Jackie is thoughtful. And I think to me, what's most impressive about Jackie is we just named all of these awesome things. And Jackie is one of the most humble people I have ever met. She doesn't realize how amazing and awesome she is. She just exudes this awesomeness with everything that she does. And I can see her blushing right now because she's not the typical kind of person who wants to be talked about in this way. We are really proud of Jackie Jourdain and this honor that she has and all that she has accomplished. Jackie, what do you got to say for yourself? We are all so proud of you.
Yeah, I'm so honored to get this support, and it's nice representing Holyoke in Holyoke High in such a positive way. And I like to thank you, Ms. McKenna, especially, and also Dr. Mahoney, because I wouldn't be able to be this kind of student if you didn't create such a good school environment where I'm able to do that. So I thank both of you, and I thank my teachers, and thank you for saying those things, and I appreciate this recognition in this award. So thank you.
Thank you for being awesome, Jackie.
Congratulations, Jackie. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations. What are your plans after graduating? Or what do you think your plans may be?
Thank you, Asna. After graduating, I want to go to a four-year college, and then I hope to attend med school. I either want to become like a primary care physician or a psychiatrist. I want to go to a four-year college after high school. I've applied to a few schools. I've applied to UMass, and I've applied to Yale because my brother goes there, and I would love to go there. But I have plenty of other schools to apply to. That's probably my biggest goal at the moment, and I'm so excited to expand my education after high school and like myself as a person, because I'm really about that and developing myself through education and what that allows me to do for myself. That's the base plan. It'll expand as I learn more about what I'm doing in the future. But that's the basic plan for now.
Yeah, thank you, and congrats to Kevin and Sherry too.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Kershane.
I really impressed by the long introduction in your resume. It sounds fantastic, and I've watched your family and your brother, and very proud of what you've been able to accomplish through Holyoke High School. I'm curious. I think from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you are 4.0 plus, because I know our scale goes a little higher, and it sounds like you've got probably one of the most well-rounded backgrounds that with so much participation in sports, academics, and outside. Looking at your college application, if I were in that position, I would be, okay, this one's going to the top. How did you feel about SAT, ACT preparation? How do you feel about that, and what would you recommend? Because that's always a very important piece. And what would you recommend to students that might be watching you tonight? Like, how did you get ready for that piece of it through Holyoke High School?
Through Holyoke High School, Algebra 2 was really important in algebra, because and a little bit of geometry. That's kind of what the SAT teaches on math. The English section is more It seems subjective, but it's definitely objective, the reading section with the questions. I think, yeah, I think from Holyoke High School is really important, like, like reviewing the Algebra 2 concepts I learned and some of the geometry ones as well. And also like the grammatical rules I learned in English class. So I think Holyoke High for that. But I think the biggest tip I can give to people is looking at the free practice tests that are online from like the official ones from the College Board, like looking at those and really understanding the test and how it works and understanding that the questions are objective, they're not subjective. Like there is one right answer to everything and there's a way to find it. In like reading too, even though it seems subjective. But yeah, I think really looking at the free practice tests online from the College Board and doing those and using them and observing what you got wrong and really focusing on what you got wrong and how to fix it for next time is important. So yeah, I think that's a big thing for us. Yeah, I think Holyoke High for like learning all the math concepts. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I want to say congratulations, Jackie, and I know you have two very supportive parents there. So thank you as well, and congratulations to them as well. And I wish you all the best in whatever path you take, which you're probably going to get geared more towards Yale. I have a feeling. Thank you again for coming and for squeezing us in your agenda.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an honor. It's no problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have one short presentation. And what was that? Oh,
you're jumping the gun now. I'm just saying. Did anybody sign up for public comment, by the way? I'm sorry. So no public comment. So now we're going to move on to communications and reports. And we're going to move into student reports. And our first person up would be Miss Brennan from Holyoke High School North.
Hi, everyone. I'm Samantha Brennan. I'm a junior at Holyoke High. This is my second year on the school committee. I'm really excited to be back. I wasn't able to make the first few meetings because my field hockey season was still running. So after that's wrapped up, I'm back. So I'm really excited, like I said. Some really cool things that are happening at Holyoke High is the elections for student government just happened for the freshman class. So we've got the class of 2025. We've got them now. And student government is also running the Spirit Week that we always have before pep rally. Today was Jersey Day, so I wore my Rob Gronkowski jersey. A lot of people wore them, which was awesome. We love school spirit. There's also a new thing called the Student Advisory Council that meets with Mr. Maldonado and Mrs. McKenna. I'm on that. It's really exciting. And there's also another thing called the Student Cabinet, which is with Mr. Soto and Dr. Mahoney. I'm also on that. We met once. It was really fun. We talked about some important stuff. And moving on to more like kind of fun things, the Holyoke High School Magical Choir began concerts again with Mr. Todd as our choir teacher. That's the first time in almost 2 years we've had a concert, which was awesome. We performed at the Holyoke Public Schools Athletic Hall of Fame last week. It was great. The Holyoke High School Herald has been interviewing some great people. We had Mr. Garcia on. We interviewed him before he won the mayor seat. So that was really fun before we got to see what his plans are. We also got to interview Mr. Soto, which was also, it was enjoyable because we got to also hear about what his plans are and everything about receivership. I learned a lot of things. That was on the Herald, our newspaper, which I'm a part of. So that was really fun. And then there were articles written about that. And yeah, that's about it. I'm sure there's many more things. There's just so many things that we've been doing at Holyoke High lately. And I'm really excited that I got to share them with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brennan. And I can't wait till this week. It's the low level, you know what I mean. The low budget high school play, which starts at the end of this week, I believe. This Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you. Go ahead, Ms. Brennan.
Yeah, my softball teammate Alicia Skirdo wrote that, so I'm excited to go watch that.
Excellent. And now to hear from the Holyoke High School Dean Campus, Cheyenne Hall. Oh, she's not here with us this evening? Okay, nope, that's fine. So hopefully we can hear from her next week. Now we're going to move on to presentations, and we have the Ghost Boys presentation up first.
I wanted to provide. Sorry, I wanted to provide a little bit of framing here. We are excited to partner with the Holyoke Police Department and UNH. I'm going to ask Sue Huckle to come off camera. It looks like she already is, but our seventh graders right now are reading a book called Ghost Boys. You know, one of the things as part of our equity work that we've always heard and a lot of our panorama surveys is that the text that we use isn't always culturally responsive. So our seventh graders are reading this book right now and are going to have a facilitated discussion about the book. It's a great book. I read it myself. It's about a boy who was shot and killed in Chicago and ends up being friends with the police officer's daughter. And you get to hear so many different sides of the story and how, as a community, they came together and healed. So you know, it's very cool that we're gonna have, and the fact that the Holyoke Police Department was willing to partner with us in this effort. Just thought it was great to highlight. And Sue, if you could just come and elaborate a little more on what the Ghost Boys initiative is.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who just gave us amazing act to follow here in terms of trying to segue from those inspirational stories about what's happening at the high school to the work that's happening with guiding our students toward unified sports. I think it's amazing. So thank you. Thank you for having. Buenas noches to all of you. So as Anthony said, we are partnering with the Holyoke Police Department as well as some professionals from the University of New Hampshire's Carsey School of Public Policy to facilitate discussions around Ghost Boys. And that's going to be happening on November 17th. It is not an open forum for media or for major participation. It's truly for our students. So we have it happening at Metcalf, McMahon, Peck, STEM, and Sullivan. And the reason we had UNH come in is so we can have students feel safe about telling their own stories. But this text has created a wonderful opportunity for us to really highlight our values and vision as a district, including that our students are at the center of our curriculum by choosing culturally responsive texts, by really highlighting that all stories matter and our stories matter. So we are producing a multi-genre public narrative around this. And being able to communicate our universal stories helps us understand ourselves better and our commonality with others. Literature, as everyone knows, deepens our understanding of ourselves and our world, and can help us have an empathetic response while participating in challenging and sometimes difficult but courageous discussion and debate. So our students are going to be learning to use strategies that are really associated with complex reasoning, like argumentation moves. They're going to be able to compile and cite textual evidence in support of a position as a result of this. And they're going to, reading and responding to Ghost Boys, most importantly, is going to give our kids the opportunity to use literature as a guidepost to explore issues of income inequality, historical injustices, systemic racism, and bias. So the goal is really to inspire our students to experience how these stories can be powerful and help us connect with ourselves in the world. So I believe this is all going to be posted on the HPS website as well as on social media. So thank you again for having me. And if there's any questions or people want to follow up, I'd appreciate it.
Are there any questions or comments? Ms. Burks?
I think it's pretty cool that we're working with the HPD on this. I think that's going to be amazing. So my only question is, so for families that don't want to participate, are they being given the option to opt out? Are they being given the option to opt out, or is everybody?
Are students able to opt out of this? Absolutely.
Okay. I think it's great. I'm excited about this. I like that we're starting to foster and build relationships between our students and the police department. I think it's important, especially with the state of the world currently. I think it's a great program, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for the presentation. Can't wait to get a follow-up, and I don't know if we can invite her back for a follow-up to see how the program is progressing.
Yeah, it'll be, the only thing I want to say is thank you to the police department for partnering. We all know how touchy this subject could be this day and age, and with media and everything, and our police department was just ready and willing to jump right into it with us and help facilitate this discussion with our students. But we'd be happy to provide a report in the next school committee packet on how it went.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you again. So thank you for that presentation. Our next presentation is the Holyoke Ethnic Studies presentation.
Ma'am, is
You want to start us off, Joel?
Oh, great. I couldn't hear. Hi, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joel Arce, and I've been a resident of Holyoke since 2016, and I'm currently a PhD candidate at UMass Amherst in the College of Education. I've taught undergraduate coursework, programming for young people after school. I've worked on research projects, do teacher professional development as well. But prior to my time at UMass, I was a middle school social studies teacher for several years, and also worked for nonprofits that focus on college access programming. But tonight, as a member and a representative of the Holyoke Ethnic Studies Community Advisory Board, we want to thank you. Thank you all for giving us the space to speak and present in tonight's school committee meeting. As a partner to the program since 2016, I feel fortunate to be a member of this learning community and to have gotten the opportunity to work alongside students and teachers in HPS by way of the Ethnic Studies program. So today I'll be joined by HPS alumni, teachers, and other program partners who will speak in different parts of the today's agenda, which is up on the slide. So we plan to share a little bit about our program, what it is, as well as some of the challenges that we've been facing at the programmatic level. We'll also get a chance to hear about the impact of Ethnic Studies coursework on student learning outcomes and experiences before we open up for dialogue. So for right now, I'm going to pass it off to Zael, who's going to open it up.
Okay, hi everybody. So my name is Zael. I'm currently an Ethnic Studies Alumni Fellow. I did graduate from Holyoke High from class of 2020. So tonight I will be reading a poem that was written by Holyoke Ethnic Studies student during the spring of 2019 when Ethnic Studies classes participated in a unit called Another World is Possible, right? So this unit basically focused on the concepts of collective action and critical hope. Through these 6 weeks of lessons, Ethnic Studies students were introduced to case studies on abolitionism, rebuilding Puerto Rico, post-Hurricane Maria, the Black Lives Matter movement, and our current context during COVID-19. Each case study sought to demonstrate the power of collective action across time and social movements, along with the motivation for social change rooted in critical hope. In Holyoke Ethnic Studies, we define critical hope as when our dreams for a more just world lead us to collective struggle against injustice. Through critical hope and collective action, we work towards a new world radically different from the one that we inherited. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and read the poem by the Holyoke Ethnic Studies student. So this poem is called A World Without Racism. Hold up, let me make this a little bit bigger because the girl cannot see. Okay. The streets were bustling, people were thriving. This is what a good world looks like. For there were no injustices, no wrongs, no crimes, only happiness. For there were no injustices, only equality. No one was judged, for there was true justice. The happiness of this world was only created through the despair of others who made the change. This change was monumental and was well worth the effort. For a world with equality is a world with the truest form of freedom. And a world with freedom is a world where everyone can be proud and happy for who they are. In this world, do not be afraid of being alone. Everyone is with you. For a world with good communities is a world where everyone can be connected no matter their traits or their opinions. This world is a world of the purest happiness, a world so pure that it does not require prisons. For a world with no injustices has no need to cause injustice through torment. This world, although imaginary now, will and can be a reality through our efforts, but only our efforts together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sayel. And thank you for opening us up. I'm going to pass it off to Nick, who's going to describe a little bit about the program and what Holyoke Ethnic Studies is.
Yeah, thank you, Joelle. Thank you all so much for having us. I'm really happy to be here representing some of our ethnic studies teachers. So my name is Nick Cream. I am currently a U.S. History Ethnic Studies teacher at Dean High School. I teach 10th grade. And before we get into some of the concerns surrounding the decision to restructure the Ethnic Studies academic program, we wanted to be sure to give you all a little more background about the program, its reach, and the structure of the program when it's at its full capacity. So Holyoke Ethnic Studies is an academic program that serves close to 1,000 HPS students each year in grades 7 through 12. Ethnic Studies coursework lives in what is traditionally known as Social Studies, History, and ELA classrooms, which has been a logical housing for ethnic studies since it has a heavy focus on multi-literacy development, analytical skill building, and community knowledge. We, along with a lot of people in this room, are well aware of the ways that young people, particularly young people of color and young people from low-income families, have historically been denied an education that embraces them for who they are and the different types of knowledge that they bring to the classroom, while also pushing them to build academic and social skills that are actually applicable to their real-world contexts and 21st century work and community settings. For decades, educational scholars and policymakers have looked toward ethnic studies as a way to address these inequities and injustices. Here in Holyoke Ethnic Studies, we are grounded in what we call the 5 C's, which you see on the screen now: cariño, community, critical pedagogy, culturally relevant content, and centering students. These values have informed the shaping of the program since its origins in the 2013-2014 school year, in which a handful of middle school teachers began to pilot ethnic studies units and curriculum in 8th grade classrooms. It wasn't until this 2016-2017 school year when the program began to offer 9th grade classes and more expansive class offerings at the 8th grade level under the guidance of a program director. In fact, the Ethnic Studies program was built into the district high school redesign plan, and the Community and Global Studies Academy was a pathway that district leadership at the time saw as something that could be replicated in other academies. Over the years, the curriculum has been built and revised to expand to grades 7 through 11 under the leadership of a program director who was able to get additional support from teachers with ethnic studies backgrounds, local community leaders, and university faculty and students. It's standard aligned coursework. The program not only has developed relationships with community partners, but it intentionally incorporates local histories and knowledge that are often left out into the curriculum to strive to be a community-engaged learning experience. For example, we look toward community scholars as guest teachers and have design units that include community asset mapping, a community cultural wealth photo voice project, and service learning experiences in partnership with local community-based organizations such as Nueva Esperanza, Nuestras Raíces, Enlace de Familias, and the Gandara Youth Center. Also, through its partnerships with faculty and students in multiple colleges and universities in the Western Mass area, Ethnic Studies has offered a range of programming for students and teachers, including dual enrollment opportunities for 11th and 12th graders to take Ethnic Studies specific coursework for college credit at both Westfield State and Holyoke Community College, and one that was in the works prior to this school year with UMass. After school college access readiness programming for ethnic studies through the Student Bridges program at UMass, college campus visits that are embedded into end-of-year events and projects to Westfield State, Mount Holyoke, and UMass, facilitation of youth-led professional development for HPS teachers prior to the pandemic, building on connections between ethnic studies staff and UMass partners to recruit students to be part of a student-teacher pipeline funded by the Massachusetts Grow Your Own grant. And this included a Future Teachers Club after-school program. Now, we can go on in the ways that the program has continued to expand its impact on students and teachers with very limited staff and resources, including the Alumni Teaching Fellows program, which Zael is a part of this year. That was developed under the leadership of a program director. But for now, I'll pass it off to Danielle, who's going to highlight some of the student work that's been generated over the years. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Hayes. I am the Ethnic Studies Department Head this year. This is my 9th year as a teacher and my 4th year in Holyoke in the Ethnic Studies program. And I just wanted to share with you that Ethnic Studies students are encouraged to learn and demonstrate their knowledge in a variety of ways with an authentic purpose and audience in mind. Whether that's creating murals or writing poetry or evidence-based essays, we call on our students to be creative and critical. We call on students to develop those traditional academic skills, annotating a text, evidence-based writing, as well as develop their own voice and capacity to advocate for themselves. So I think the things that people sometimes think of when they think of ethnic studies are murals like this work of Cheyenne Hall, who's our dean representative, who wasn't able to be on this call tonight, right? Looking at some of the dominant narratives she hears about young people of color and some of the counter narratives on the right. My education matters. I'm important. School is full of adventure. Don't give up. I'm the GOAT. Right? We see this mural on the top left made by a student in response to the killing of George Floyd. We also see students here participating in a mock trial, showcasing films that they made, interviewing their peers, collaborating on a zine. This letter on the bottom right was just written this fall to Holyoke City officials about some missing pieces of our Holyoke history that we could add to our Holyoke City website, which currently ends with the year 1900. And then we also really call on students to reflect, to that metacognition. So you can see there's a YPAR research process reflection. And I know it's probably tiny on your screen, but I was, looking through photos of work over the last 4 years last night and feeling really nostalgic. And one of the students in his reflection wrote, part of this process taught me that I'm capable and good enough to do something like this project. Hashtag, it's so small now on my screen, but hashtag we can do anything. I think that really embodies the spirit of what happens in an ethnic studies classroom. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is just a small sample of some of the texts that we use in our 7th to 12th grade program. Our students are reading entire books, both fiction and nonfiction. And we hold really firmly to the belief, as Sue was mentioning earlier, that compelling text can function as mirrors for students to see themselves, and also as windows to glimpse into other time periods and cultures. And that's at the heart of our interdisciplinary work. So as Nick mentioned, we straddle both English and history, and that's by design, part of our program that we'd really like to keep at the heart of our program. And as a teacher for 9 years across states and in different types of schools and settings, I just want to testify to the fact that many students, from our honors students to students who really struggle on standardized testing and are often identified as struggling readers, will fall in love with these texts. And you see a transformation happen, especially in the 9th grade, of students really embracing their own brilliance and their ability to be successful as scholars. And that's part of what we love about ethnic studies. I'm going to pass it back over to Joelle.
Thank you so much, Danielle. So we felt it was important to acknowledge that since June, staff, students, and partners of the Ethnic Studies program have been voicing concerns about the district's decision to restructure the program during school committee meetings. So we wanted to make sure we take this time to briefly go through some of those commitments or promises that were made since May and the reality of the situation for the Ethnic Studies program and how it's impacting teachers and, quite frankly, student learning experiences. So during the June 21st school committee meeting, in line with the decision to restructure the program, to have a department head instead of a program director, 2 district cabinet members acknowledged that the teaching load had only been reduced down to 4 classes, but this would be revisited given the amount of responsibilities that had been undertaken with the program director prior. Right? They said, and I quote, it wouldn't have the same teaching load as other department heads and that it'll be significantly reduced. So today, the Ethnic Studies department head has a course load of 4 classes because the district leadership and building leadership would not reduce the teaching load for a qualified Ethnic Studies teacher with the institutional memory and expertise in the field of Ethnic Studies to effectively carry out programmatic responsibilities with a reduced course load. If we'd be able to move to the next slide. So since the decision to eliminate the program director position, we were told and promised in June in school committee meeting and in a higher education partners meeting with members of the cabinet that other staff in the district would pick up on responsibilities and projects that were under the purview of the former program director as to not overburden the department head. We were also told that we'd receive updates on how things were progressing with aspects of the program and also reassess if the restructuring was not working. The reality is that there has been significant challenges to coordinating program staff and faculty point people to coordinate dual enrollment coursework for students. Another example is that Ethnic Studies teachers have been unable to receive sufficient individualized coaching and classroom support that's specific to Ethnic Studies curriculum. There's been a loss of the coordination for after-school college access program with student bridges in particular, as well as coordination of guest speaker visits to the classroom and coordinating unit projects and events with community and higher education partners. There's also no longer a student equity team meetings that are happening that provided students with leadership roles in the district. And that student team was actually recruited and supported by the Ethnic Studies program director in past years. If we can move to the next slide, please, thank you. In May and June, we were also told in school committee and in conversations with staff and partners that all 7th and 8th graders would be taking Ethnic Studies coursework. Currently, one middle school is not offering Ethnic Studies and no middle school teachers are receiving monthly curriculum and Java-like support for the first time in 7 years. The district also purchased a prepackaged History Alive curriculum to replace middle school Ethnic Studies in 7th grade. This would replace a Massachusetts literacy standards aligned curriculum that's more specifically grounded in Holyoke history and experience. If we can move to the next slide. The program was also promised that Ethnic Studies teacher professional development time would be protected for full day PDs so that teachers across grade level and ELA and history could vertically and horizontally plan together. But just 2 weeks ago, 5 high school ELA Ethnic Studies teachers were pulled from full day PD with just 1 day's notice and after weeks of planning with UMass College of Education partners, that was done. The next slide, please. Thank you. And also in the absence of a program director over the summer, HPS staff, teachers, and Ethnic Studies partners came together for a targeted invitation to apply for a grant from Nellie Mae. This was done on staff's own time in an effort to try to alleviate the financial burden on the district to pay for a full-time staff member. Nellie Mae notified the grant proposal writers that district leaders expressed an interest in changing the scope of the proposal and not making it specific to Ethnic Studies program. As a result, we were not allowed to move into the finalist round for a $500,000 grant. And district leaders also have not responded to requests from the funder to join and facilitate a conversation with the Ethnic Studies staff in hopes of reapplying. We'll move on to the next slide, but I think just wrapping up from that piece is that we've tried our best to offer some context around some of the impacts of this restructuring on the program in the limited time we have. But we can engage in more of this during Q&A. But for now, I'm gonna want to pass it off to Dr. Sharday Bonilla, which I believe is here, who is a faculty member at the UMass College of Education, who will share a little bit about the evidence-based research on positive impacts of ethnic studies programming on student academic outcomes. Dr. Bonilla?
Thanks, Joel. And thanks everyone for having me. I'm happy to be here. As Joel said, my name is Sade Bonilla. I'm a professor at UMass Amherst. And I received my PhD from Stanford in the economics of education. I also have degrees in economics from Stanford and urban education policy from Brown University. While I have no official affiliation with the Holyoke Ethnic Studies program, I'm here to speak about some of my research that my colleagues and I have published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which is a leading academic journal, and our work is on the longer run effects of ethnic studies. So in our study, we found that students who were eligible for enrollment in a year-long ninth grade ethnic studies course in San Francisco had outsized gains in attendance, credits earned, high school graduation compared to students who are not eligible to take the course. The course we studied is similar to what has been described to you about the Holyoke program. It focuses on the histories of historically marginalized communities, promotes student critical awareness of social issues, and encourages civic engagement and community responsive social justice. So what were the results specifically of the course that me and my colleagues studied? Ethnic studies students passed 6 more classes in high school. They had better grades in math, science, and English, so not just in ethnic studies courses. More than 90% of them graduated from high school in 5 years versus 75% of their peers who were not encouraged to enroll in ethnic studies. They also enrolled in college at higher rates. And I'll be frank here, as a quantitative policy researcher, these findings are large and frankly surprising, even shocking. These are transformational results that we found. Most educational interventions experience fade out. So students will do well initially when they're inside a program, right, receiving the positive benefits. But then a few years later, we look at the students who participated in the intervention and those who didn't, and they look about the same, right? This is fade out where, you see students do well initially, and then we see no differences a little bit, sort of along the lines. This is really common in educational interventions and something that we do not see in our ethnic studies research in San Francisco. A critical caveat of sort of our research is whether this highly promising evidence from this pilot ethnic studies effort in San Francisco can be replicated elsewhere and taken to scale, right? Because that would be the hope, that you find an effective intervention and you provide it to many more students. One critical factor is the challenge of providing the appropriate teacher training and support. In San Francisco, the Board of Education was highly supportive of the ethnic studies pilot. They passed a resolution supporting the formation of the course. They also supported administrative support for launching the course, which included teacher planning, support from experienced educators at a local university to support teachers, and then release time for planning and meeting. In my continued capacity as a researcher with San Francisco, I get to be sort of in close contact with the social studies curriculum director for the district. And in order to sustain the course, provide the ongoing necessary teacher professional development, and grow the course so more students would have access to this transformational curriculum, they have a San Francisco classroom teacher who's on special assignment, who's basically been assigned at the district level to support the ethnic studies program in the district. I will sort of finish up by saying what seems to be happening in ethnic studies is you start a rock and you sort of push it down a steep hill. And what happens to that rock? It sort of spins and it gains speed and keeps going faster and faster. And that's sort of the analogy for what ethnic studies did in San Francisco. There are a lot of parallels. I've been asked to speak here because there are so many parallels between the Holyoke program and what the Holyoke Ethnic Studies program is seeking to do, and what we see in our capacity as researchers in San Francisco. And so, I will say that there are now requirements. The entire state of California is requiring that all students in the state take ethnic studies as a high school graduation requirement. And my biggest fear about that switch is that there will be an absence of support for teachers in rolling out a new curriculum, right? To make sure that the students the students who are required to have the course have access to the quality of the course that the students in San Francisco, who we initially see these positive results, had access to. And so that's my caveat, that's my fear, because I think it's really important to support teachers in doing the job well. And certainly San Francisco has sort of been emblematic in pushing the frontier there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bonilla. And so before we close out and have dialogue, we have time today for two very brief testimonials from a middle school ethnic studies teacher and an HCC faculty member who has taught an ethnic studies dual enrollment course in the past. So first I'm gonna pass it off to Chrisara. Mind sharing?
Thank you, Joelle. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Christara Sock, and I'm the 7th grade ethnic studies teacher at Metcalf Middle School. Thank you for having me today. I'm so glad to be here, especially talking about something that I'm absolutely passionate about. Before coming to Metcalf, I was working on my master's at Smith College. I was working with a professor doing research on teaching anti-racism to elementary school children. And while looking for jobs, I knew I wanted to continue this work. Metcalf, as a dual language school, meant that there was already a level of anti-racism built into our school. But now with us having ethnic studies within the middle school department means that I have more space to continue the work I was doing in a more intentional manner. So while last year I spent most of my time having to create a curriculum from scratch in social studies, this year I have the advantage of working with the ethnic studies curriculum. Having a curriculum leaves me more time to adapt the work to challenge the students that have surpassed expectations and support the students that need to catch up on the 7th grade level. Something that I have noticed though is as a first year ethnic studies teacher is wanting and needing more support. So I have great ethnic studies teachers, but I know that having a program director who can lead the ethnic studies department is fundamental. Knowing that I can message this person to come and observe my class so I can receive immediate feedback on how to better my work is important to me, especially knowing how impactful this course is to my students. However, I've learned that ethnic studies has allowed my students to engage with materials that are relevant to them personally. The personal connection makes them more interested in the material, engage them in what we call grown-up dialogue, and they are more determined to master the literacy and writing skills being taught as well as the content. Something that I will remember is one of my students last week bringing up a poem called Two Names, Two Worlds by Jonathan Rodriguez. The poem was one of our suggested materials in the ethnic studies curriculum for community bonding in the beginning of the school year. The poem was one of our, the student made a connection between the poem that we were learning at the beginning of the school year to our recent lesson last week of how a single story, how some of us have a single story of what Africa is, and is actually like. I could see the impact that having materials that are relevant to them has on them retaining the information being taught. I definitely know that my 2 minutes are over, but I'm in full confidence that not only has ethnic studies supported me in my teaching, but has positively influenced the way my students are thinking and learning. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chrisara. Raul?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Raul Gutierrez, and I'm an associate professor of Latinx Studies and Spanish at HCC, but I'm also a Holyoke resident that has 2 kids in Metcalf, and one of my son is in Ms. Sock's class, and I always see him come and discuss what they're doing, and he asks, like, Daddy, what do you do with your students, and what do you do this? So, but I'm gonna speak about my relationship. But thank you, Ms. Sock. Like, you do a wonderful job. Yeah. So I've been collaborating with the director from Holyoke High, the director that was in place for 3 years. We offered classes consistently, like that were due enroll in 2019. Seo was my student, and when COVID hit, which was unfortunate, but I was teaching on campus and also taught on Zooms. We've been offering these courses, dual enroll courses in Latinx Studies, my department, through the high school for them to earn college credits through ACC. This semester, we received an email that the district was not interested in offering those courses anymore, without any explanation why. And this was from our dual enroll person. and the enroll advisor said they're not going to offer those courses this semester. And I said, oh, okay. I think that because we are in Holyoke, and a lot of the students that go to Holyoke High transfer to Holyoke to like start their college career and then transfer to a four-year school, or decide to do something else. I have noticed that in my program, half of the students that are taking Latinx studies courses and actually majoring in Latinx studies and going up to the transfer agreements that we have available with certain colleges are ethnic studies students that have done the work at Holyoke High. At this moment, the program is tiny, but half of the students that are majoring in Latinx studies are actually from this program. Also, since the director was resigned and no longer is, or the director position was eliminated, I have not been contacted by Holyoke High at any moment regarding offering courses or continue the collaboration. We were having plans to have what was called a 2-2-2 with Westfield State. So you will be able to take courses at HCC for the last 2 years of Holyoke High, be able to make headway, then get your associates in 2 years and get your bachelor's in 6 years. Within 6 years, you can have a bachelor's degree, meaning junior, senior year. Then they go on to HCC, then they go on to Westfield, and they can get a master's within 5 years after going into HCC, because it's a 2-2-1. That was unfortunate because that was in the works. We also collaborated in a grant that hopefully we can get with NEH that connects Amherst College, Holyoke Community College, and Holyoke High. But because none of the courses are not going to be, they're not offered anymore, or we haven't been told that they're going to be offered in the future because of lack of connection. And I was in one of the meetings that we were promised that someone was going to take over this kind of like do enroll responsibilities that were the director's role. Well, that hasn't occurred since the director position was eliminated. And I think that I want to like just repeat that as a father, as a Latinx person that lives in Holyoke, I think that this program is key for the representation of our students, especially my children. And also, I think that you see the actual, the proof of it is in the pudding. You see that the students do well. They do better, they graduate better, they transfer to college and do well in college, and so on and so forth. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Mildred, I know we are coming up on time, so 1 minute, okay, to kind of.
You're kind of.
That would be me to do that. So you guys are kind of way over time. What was it that you needed to add?
Oh, I think the last piece that we were going to end on was two things. We had student testimonials that we also had pre-recorded, which we are more than happy to, student testimonials and a parent testimonial that we're more than happy to share with school committee members in the coming week or so. We also know that there was some interest from Anthony Soto and Rebecca Burks in visiting our community advisory board meeting, and we're extending that invitation to come visit our upcoming November 18th meeting. And if schedule doesn't permit, then perhaps our December CAB meeting as well. But thank you so much, Mildred, and thank you, everyone.
So what you guys can do regarding the parent and the student testimonials, or whomever testimonials you do have, even if it's teachers, other students, by all means, please send it to Sam Garcia, who will make sure that every school committee member has it and they can read it. Before I go on to questions and answers or comments, I'm going to first pass it over to our receiver, Mr. Soto.
Thank you, Ms. LaFave, and thank you for everyone who spoke tonight on behalf of the Ethnic Studies program. I don't think that there is any doubt that we all believe that this Ethnic Studies program is a good program, and I've said from the beginning that I want to support all of these issues that had come up tonight. I first heard them at a meeting with Miss Dana Altschuler, who everybody's referring to as the previous director. And immediately after hearing some of these issues, we worked together. I worked with my team to mitigate some of the issues. So we do, I've heard there's a lack of teacher support. We do have expert teachers and instructional coaches in all of our buildings, and I'm hoping that, ethnic studies teachers, whether in ELA or social studies, have an opportunity to tap those. We do have an academics director team that they also, can reach out to, and Valerie Anir would be a point of contact there. I've heard the workload for the department head being a lot, and we did respond to that. We reduced the teaching load from, there's 7 periods in the day, and we went to 4. So with one being a prep. So I know that that's not, I don't know what significant is, but we did reduce the teaching load. And I'm hearing, I am hearing a lot from all of our teachers. One of the things that I've heard from almost every focus group that I've had, staff focus group, is that this year has been really, really challenging and overwhelming. And that's the whole reason. I've heard it from students and I've heard it from teachers. That's the whole reason we created the wellness package that we did, and I'll speak to a little later. As far as dual enrollment opportunities goes, I had an opportunity to speak to a CAB member last week in Paul Rodriguez, and apparently the CAB was informed that we've put all dual enrollment opportunities on hold for this year. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Our dual enrollment programs is up and running, still exists. This is a classic example. One of the things that I've been saying about this issue the entire time is that it's going to take a team of people. It's, this program has been led by and developed by one person, and when that person, is no longer here, this is part of the reason why I want to make it a collaborative team effort. So as soon as that person raised to my attention that there was another dual enrollment opportunity, we have a whole advanced learning team at the high school in Miss Regali, Mr. Barreto, and Miss Gillis. So what we need to do is, okay, thank you. I appreciate you letting us know that there's this opportunity. I'm going to connect the person at UMass with our advanced learning team at Holyoke High. And why it took so long for us to know about and hear about that partnership and make that connection to the people that I don't know why it took that long. But since that meeting, I've asked to meet on a monthly basis with Ms. Altschuler, and I know that Ms. Hayes is also regularly meeting with Valerie Anir as well. On the grant issue, we were handed a grant the day before it was due, and we have a grant policy in the district that, and it was by the Palante group, actually. It wasn't even the ethnic studies group. Palante had written...
Mr. Soto, just to clarify, what was co-written with Palante and ethnic studies?
Okay. I'd appreciate just letting me speak, because I didn't interrupt once. So a grant was handed to our team, and it was about strengthening the Palante, the ethnic studies, and the district partnership. And included in that grant was adding this ethnic studies director position. At no point did we have a conversation. If we're talking about developing a grant for Holyoke Public Schools, and one of the key partners is Holyoke Public Schools district leadership, we have to be a part of that conversation. And at no point were we a part of that conversation. We have a grant policy. Every single grant that has to be submitted on behalf of Holyoke Public Schools or in partnership with Holyoke Public Schools has to get approved by the cabinet 30 days before the deadline. That didn't follow the process, and despite not following the process, I gave the approval to move forward. What I asked for, and this was me, I asked Dr. Mahoney to reach out to the organization and ask them to give us a little bit more time so that we can talk about this potential opportunity. They took that as we weren't aligned. The partnership between Palante, the Holyoke Public Schools District, and the ethnic study, that there wasn't alignment, and they said, you know what? We do have another round of grants coming in the future. We'd love to participate, but it doesn't look like you guys are ready. And that, I mean, this is the first time something like that has happened. We have a process where every grant has to be approved by, if it's a competitive grant above $25,000, has to get approved by the cabinet before we go after it. And unfortunately, this didn't follow that process. The ethnic studies program is a Holyoke Public Schools program. It doesn't operate completely independent of the Holyoke Public Schools. And that's kind of what I want to do. Is it feels right now in the way things are operating that it's an independent program of Holyoke Public Schools, and it's not. My expectation is that my cabinet team, my academic team, my high school counselors, everybody in Holyoke Public Schools acknowledges this is a program of Holyoke Public Schools, and we want to support it, we want to continue it, and I really urge the CAB members and anybody who has a vested interest in wanting to see this program be successful to work with me and work with my team. The solution, the only solution that I keep hearing is we need to restore this ethnic studies director position. We need to restore. That's the only solution that I keep hearing. But I haven't had the opportunity to work directly with the people that are making these recommendations. I have asked since June. You know, we talk about referencing previous school committee meetings. I have been very verbal about I want to be invited to a CAB meeting. I want one of my team members to be, whether you like Valerie Anier or Dr. Mahoney or anybody on the cabinet team. The reality is they're in positions to help advance and support this program, and it feels like there's a wall that has been created between. I mean, our own school committee member offered to be a part of the CAB discussions and was met with a lot of resistance. And you know, we'll think about whether or not we want you to be a part of the CAB. And if we're talking about a community advisory board, how and a Holyoke Public Schools ethnic studies program, how do you not have people that are, you know, what I'm asking is, you know, we have Mrs. Burks who was willing to be a part of the conversation. I am willing to be a part of the conversation. I have members on the academics team, members of my school leadership team, all willing to be a part of the conversation. And there's been this divide and this tension. And what I'm challenging and asking anybody who really has a vested interest and cares about the ethnic studies program being successful and staying and having longevity in Holyoke Public Schools is we're here. We want to work with those folks that have great ideas. It doesn't rely on one person. I don't think that the solution is automatically to add a director position. I fully expect my team to work with you and anybody else who wants to see this program improve. And then the last thing that I heard was about a student equity group. I did create a high school cabinet. Ms. Samantha Brennan just commented on meeting. I also created a middle school cabinet, and we're going to be meeting regularly. It was opened up to all students, including ethnic studies students. So I have, you know, the whole goal of that is to promote student voice. You know, you can ask Ms. Brennan. One of the biggest charges that at our first meeting that we talked about is how does this group, this high school cabinet, make sure that it's incorporating the voice of everybody, not just the members of the cabinet. You know, student voice is very much, and I've been meeting every single week. I sit down with a group of students and I listen. I talk to them. What are the biggest concerns in Holyoke Public Schools? that we need to tackle, what's working well. So, you know, I don't know why there weren't students from the ethnic studies program joining either one of those cabinets, but we do have a student group that is working with the superintendent. I think I've tried to touch upon everything that was brought up. If we could walk away with one point, is that there's not one sole solution to supporting this program of like restoring an ethnic studies director. I am open, and I want to hear, you know, all the issues that are brought up, and I want to work together with my team. But it's going to be working together with my team, and until we break down that wall of like everything filtering through one person and not really getting back to my team, we're not gonna actually do the real work that matters, which is implementing some of the addressing some of the issues that continue to be brought up. You know, the last thing. Sorry, I know I said the last thing already, but on the professional development, we did have to pull our ELA teachers. We looked at and reviewed all of our data, and our students have been struggling with writing, and we had to pull ELA teachers for professional development that they were going to be getting. But we heard the issue brought forward by the ethnic studies team, and in January, we are going to allow our ELA teachers, ethnic studies teachers, to participate in the ethnic studies professional development. So again, that's really what I wanted to say was we're here. We want to support this program. There is not an ethnic studies director position currently, but we do have people ready and willing to pick it up. But we need to hear those concerns. You know, I started hearing some of these concerns last week, and we worked immediately to address them. And I want to continue to meet with Dana and continue to hear any concerns that are brought up regarding the ethnic studies program and work with the team that we have in place to address those concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Nope. Well, I do. Oh, Mr. Wellhan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mrs. Burks for reaching out to the program and working with Mr. Soto. This is really the program just kind of needs a reboot. I think there's been disconnect going back since the summer. Mr. Soto sort of stated that too. That being said, I support the program. I've seen studies where 50% of the youth in our country get their news from social media, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Okay, so this is an important program, and it promotes critical thinking, which is important, not only in this school system, but our country in general. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wellhan. Ms. Burks.
So I have tried to be able to join one of your CAB meetings and was told in an email, as you know, Anthony stated, that you guys would think about whether or not you were going to allow me at your meeting, which kind of was a standoff a little bit. It was very put offish. And I will say, we also don't know who's communicating with us. Every email is signed ethnic studies. Well, we don't know who you are. You're sending us emails and you're sending us information, but we don't even have a name. We don't know who's on the cab. We don't know who's sending us these emails. And that's concerning. That's really concerning. It seems like you guys are definitely closing down the lines of communication. And I think Anthony's been very clear for a really long time that he really wants this program to succeed, and he wants to see it move forward, but we need to work collaboratively, and that has not been happening. So I really hope that it does, because I think you guys do great work, but we definitely need to have some collaboration. Thank you.
So, Ms. Burks, before I go on to the next speaker, I will tell you that the person who is responding as the Holyoke Ethnic Studies Committee is Dana Altschuler. Is that how you say the last name? I want to make sure I don't want to mess anybody's
that's how I would
last name.
pronounce
So I'm
yes.
just going to say Dana A, because I don't like to mess up people's last names. But that was one of the questions that I asked when someone's directing an email to me. I want to know who exactly I'm speaking with, and it's Dana
I think
who had
that would
sent
be
it.
appreciated moving forward to really know who we're having a conversation with.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Sheehan.
Yeah, so
I'll get to you, Danielle. One moment, please. Just
one thing that, I mean, I heard that I just don't know if I heard it correctly or not because it was quick. I mean, we made mention to a curriculum being used in middle school that was called History Alive, and I thought I heard that it said it didn't meet the Mass frameworks. I mean, there is clearly a Massachusetts edition that meets the Massachusetts frameworks. So, I mean, for anyone watching at home, the history curriculum in place meets the Massachusetts frameworks for social studies and history that I think were updated in 2018 or 2019. But more importantly, I mean, I have been a proponent of this program since we first started having these conversations back in May or June or whenever it came up. But I look at some of this matters of curriculum, matters of how things are rolled out and managed in the school. Receivership or not is not our role. I mean, curriculum is not the role of the Holyoke School Committee or any school committee. I mean, the Mass General Law gives that power of curriculum and textbooks to the principals, and under uniform procurement laws gives it to the principals with the advice and the direction of the superintendent. I mean, we don't sit here and debate how math is going to be administered or how ninth grade students are going to be taught English. We don't sit here and debate how ethnic studies is going to be administered. I think this was a good presentation. Our support has been there to want to be involved and make a community effort and get this out there. But we as school committee members don't have that authority. And I don't care whether it's receivership or not, but we don't have it. Ed Reform says we don't have it. That's with the principal and the superintendent. And we have voiced our concerns to the superintendent. We have pretty much appointed a committee member to work with Mr. Soto, to work with the committee, and to deliver that. And I mean, I don't sit here and tell Mark Todd how people should sing. You wouldn't want me doing that. But I mean, we have a budgetary oversight. We create policy, and we are the policy makers for the district. We are not the curriculum leaders. We hire people to do that, to have the background to do that.
Ms. Hayes.
There's a lot of points here, and I don't know how much time I have, but I just want to share, Ms. Burks. We haven't met before, but I know that Dana reached out to you twice after your request with the hope to have a one-to-one connection, and I just want to reiterate that that I'm the person in the department head role who's dropping a lot of these balls because it's a struggle. And Anthony Soto mentioned that there's 7 periods in a teacher's day at the high school level. All teachers, for the most part, teach 5 sections as a full-time teaching load. So, you have 2 off, 1 for prep and 1 for meetings. So I have 1 release, a 45-minute release for what was a full-time job. And so a lot of this is miscommunication. But for example, I've never been connected with the advanced learning team to support dual enrollment. So when people reach out to me, I try my best to schedule and work with them. And then I'm trying to refer them to people, other people in the district. But the reality is just that our capacity for this program to survive has been really diminished. I do think, Anthony, that you're speaking something very true, which is there's a lot of harm and there's a lot of mistrust that's been done, that exists right now. And what I'm really truly, sincerely, I'm trying to be really clear about is our next CAB meeting is this Thursday, November 18th at 4:00. It's on Zoom. Our December meeting is, I think, yet to be scheduled, but it will be in person. And we really do welcome you all to come into the space, to visit, to participate. I think that there's a lot of mistrust on both sides right now. But what I want to be very real with is that I think just like your teachers are stretched thin, the cabinet is stretched thin. So even though there are, maybe literacy experts or academic coaches at all these different schools, or there are folks that are doing dual enrollment, even though those positions exist and those people are working hard, I have no doubt about it. The reality is that this robust program that we had is really crumbling, and it is crumbling in my hands. Like, I want to be honest about that. It is very personally and professionally upsetting to see such a robust program, to see Raul here, to see Chrisera here, to know that when Chrisera emails in the middle of the day, I'm still teaching 70 some students and not able to pop over to her classroom and visit. So I think the reality is that we are all carrying a lot, and unless, whether or not it's a director, it doesn't matter what it's called, there's not capacity right now to sustain this program that calls on teachers to go above and beyond what a typical history and ELA teacher does. And I appreciate the clarification about the role of the school committee and what you all can do. We're just a little bit at our wits' end because we've written to the education commissioner. We've tried to work with the cabinet. We've tried to, we're just trying to sustain something that seems to be really working for students. And we're looking for your support in whatever form makes the most sense to you. Sounds like a first step is having people come together on Thursday at this community advisory board meeting. But as school committee members, if there are ways that you can help us advocate for this program, and cabinet people, like if there's ways that we can really, truly, I think Anthony said, we all believe it's a good program, but now we have to put in the work to make sure it exists next year. Because I truly, as someone who's been here for 4 years, we've already lost 2 teachers in our program this year. And it is a very challenging curriculum to step into as a first year teacher or as a teacher without support. That's all for me tonight.
Mr. Addison.
Thank you, Mildred. Thank you, Danielle, for, again, hopefully kind of a clearing of the air as well, right? And I think perhaps I think if there's a place to start on common ground, then let's do that, because I think there is support for the program. I heard that multiple times, and that I'm sure that myself and other folks that are here for the presentation are happy to hear that. And again, we don't have to go down the route in terms of thinking about miscommunication, it sounds like, in terms of interpretations of communication flow, which I think what we're taking away is that needs to be streamlined. And I think we want to do that because we want to build this bridge here. I think a couple of things that I'll just make note of, because I don't want to take too much time, is that what we were hoping to also do during this presentation is to talk about the breadth of the work that's been carried by a program director over these last 5 years, and the different types of aspects of programming that's not typical for a department head because of the nature of the work, right? We're talking about a very rigorous literacy-based curriculum that is grounded in community knowledges, that's grounded in critical literacy and understanding racial literacies, right? So that is a large breadth of work that requires partnership work, that requires institutional memory, right? And so somebody to carry that has the institutional memory to continue those relationships on, whoever that may be, but to have somebody there. And in fact, the point I'll make is that other districts in other cities and other states have actually learned from those lessons. And in fact, right down across the way in Boston, they've recognized that. And in fact, they assigned a teacher on special assignment with a no teaching course load because they understand the nature of the work of somebody to carry out the responsibilities of this program, right? Call it program director, call it a teacher on special assignment. And again, I understand there's limitations on the scope of the school committee, but that's something that we know that there are existing models that work when it comes to rolling out an ethnic studies curriculum, right? And so that's something that I just wanted to put out there that we're thinking about. We've been trying to communicate. And in fact, through the course of our letter campaign, sharing with district and with state level folks since May, sharing about the relationship. So very specific about the fact that we have dual enrollment programs. We've had 2 courses that's been offered consistently through Westfield State. That's been expressed in writing and been shared with DESE, and that's been shared also with the cabinet as well. And just we understand that it's a lot to carry and it's a lot to take in because again, it's a large breadth of work. And so perhaps if we can find some sort of common ground to recognize that there needs to be some capacity building around that as well, and a recognition that whoever's doing that needs to have the institutional memory and knowledge about the scope and sequence of an ethnic studies curriculum to do that, carry that out. And I'll end there, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else have any comments? Oh, Mr. Collmore?
Yes, I enjoy this very, very much because it's so important for the city of Holyoke. I'm going to go back to the times of when they built a canal system in Holyoke. And the German people, the French people, the Irish people, the Polish people, all worked together to create a canal system that is so important was to the city of Holyoke, where the silk mills that were recognized all over the world, the paper mills that were recognized all over the world, all came from all these backgrounds of the city of Holyoke. The companies came in and they built houses so these people could work in these mills. And this is the most important thing we should be talking about, is starting the history of Holyoke, how this ethnic and how this Holyoke was developed. I'm just going to go back just for a second and talk about the City Hall, how wonderful it was designed by a Mr. Heckel years ago. And then we go on a few years later, and our wonderful city council came together and said, hey, we have to spread out and go farther and start developing our streets and developing our parks and playgrounds and things like this. And then came along the WPA days, where all our people came together and built Mackenzie Field and built Scott Tower. And then we can go along and talk about City Hall for a second. I don't know if you people know it, but the Boston Celtics played right there at City Hall. It was the most wonderful gymnasium in all of Western Massachusetts at one time. And then we can go along and talk about the Hispanics coming into Holyoke and the Latinos coming into Holyoke in the 1960s and so, and how to educate them, how to work with us and their families. And we all work together to make a better Holyoke in which it is today. And believe me, Holyoke is a wonderful city, and we all should be very, very proud of what our people did, the Irish, the French, the Polish, the Latinos, all together to make our city. And it'll continue, believe me, it will continue as long as we all work together to get this done.
Thank you, Mr. Collmore. Does anybody else have it?
Yes, thank you. Jose Lugo.
Wait a minute. Who's
member
that?
of the-
I'm sorry. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You are?
I am Jose Lugo. I am a member of the CAB. I've been supporting ethnic studies. I am an ethnic studies educator. And I've been learning a great deal about the collaborative process through this CAB. And I think I want to really approach one of the points that I was really feeling from you, Anthony, is and the difference between communications and leadership styles. You have this institutional practice in which you are moving your team with, and the ethnic studies community is working more on a broader based collaborative way of communicating, where one person doesn't speak for everybody or three people don't speak for everybody, but the entire community or the CAB does. and we try to come together and bring as many people together so that we can get this feel for how we need to move forward in our next steps. And that's really going to be one of the major areas that has to be shifted on all sides, because ethnic studies is about disrupting, as Joelle said, that institutional memory. And for the people that a lot of, that really ethnic studies resonates with are those people whose institutional memory with the public educational system is negative across this nation because of the origins of this institutional way of removing culture from people, but calling it education in order to make everybody the same. I come from this from a perspective as an indigenous man, and I recognize the power behind the statement that still resonates greatly today, is to remove the savage, but save the man. And the idea that our school systems want to honor our cultures and yet at the same time erase cultures by not permitting the actual history to be explored deeper across the curriculum, because it can be. Going into a math class and accessing mathematics from an ancestral perspective. How is it that your ancestors were able to navigate, how you were able to view the world, how you were able to survive without the technologies that were supposedly brought to this nation, to this continent, I say. How communities were able to exist and heal and grow and develop social structures and ways and laws that still exist today, but people don't know about it because our school systems are erasing that. We have this expertise that you have mentioned in there, but are they prepared to teach the 5 C's? I don't know if they are, but we can't even get past the communication differences. And so I hope at least when you do attend the CAB meeting, and I'm able to attend as well, that we can at least explore that too. Because the institutional ways in which you're moving forward are what causing some of the unwellness that is arising, not because it's you, not because it's your team, but because there are historical memories and institutional memories in which people have been put in situations that were unfair because of the biases of of this educational system. You know it exists. You're one of the ones that we would say, just as myself, that we are the outliers because we succeeded, but we should be the exemplars. But there's too much going on behind what the institutions do to just sit there and not acknowledge the historical elements of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lugo. Being that no one has any further questions, I'm going to ask one specific question. Who created this CAB and who decides who's on it? Can anyone answer that one?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to let Joel go as he's been part of the organizing for CABs a little bit longer than I have.
Absolutely. Actually, if we're looking back at some of the origins, it was thinking about some of the dual enrollment opportunities to think about what course offerings can happen. That started in 2016, 2017. It wasn't even named CAB-N at that particular moment. And then we started thinking about how can we also perhaps think about the guest speakers that we've had join in, or perhaps like oral historians from a particular area join in some of these conversations in terms of scope and sequences. So CAB officially really didn't start as like a title or a name until 2019. And this was based off of folks who have either prior done specific partnership work. So they offered an after school program. They offered some sort of teacher support. They did curriculum support, were guest speakers. These were folks that were asked to join and if they wanted to participate on a yearly basis. So that happened in 2019, just as the pandemic started. Yeah.
Okay, so no one is really appointed to this. It's you guys just decide who wants
Folks
to
who
be
have
a
done
part
who
of
have
it?
done partnership work. Yeah.
Okay, so being that
And
you have
Danielle, I don't know if you want to add something here, but
Well, I was just going to say, again, I do think there's some miscommunication with Miss Burks, but Miss Burks is welcome. Mr. Soto, you're welcome. Anyone at the school committee or cabinet is welcome to join us on Thursday. And I'll follow up and send that link to Sam this evening, just so that everyone has it.
Okay.
There's not, I think maybe there's not like as much of a formal membership, I think, as you might be. Like, it's not like an application process or you have to do it for a year. As people are in collaboration with our community.
Well, I
They're
always
on the
think
campus.
inclusive of students
okay,
who
hold on, guys.
are in our classes.
Hold
Yeah.
on, time out. 1 minute. The reason why I was asking, okay, is because we had appointed Miss Burks to be a part of it. And we were told in an email, and I have the email, that had to be decided by the CAB. Now, when we talked about this presentation last month, and I was asked, well, not really asked, I was told that we would never have the ethnic studies at the school committee or on the agenda. If there's one thing I don't like is a divide, okay? And ever since this whole thing about a program director, which I said specifically in my email, the presentation needs to be about the Holyoke Ethnic Studies program, not about a position. I think throughout your whole presentation, I might have heard the word 12 times. Program director, program director, program director. So I'm not sure if the previous program director was part of the ensemble of this presentation, but it was also the same person that was always getting back to me on the emails at Holyoke Ethnic Studies. Now, the school committee is here to work together with everyone within the district, that works within the district, and those that we collaborate with throughout the colleges, the universities. Okay? We're not here to start creating a divide. We are here to also educate our students, right, on the inequities, because they do exist. I'm Latina, so I know they do exist. We're here to talk about systemic racism. We're here to talk about how laws came into play and how it affected people of color to this day moving forward. But if there's one thing that I do not accept or would ever tolerate, is to now cause a racial divide amongst our people here in Holyoke or anywhere else. We're supposed to be working together. So right now within this Holyoke Ethnic Studies, either you're not going to the supports that were provided because you choose to keep on your own with the hopes that you would get a program director. So, or what you're telling me is that our own cabinet team is refusing to help. So it's either you're not going to them, which we were told that you would have supports and you would have people who would be in charge, so I knew exactly who I was going to hold accountable. And I was told Valerie would be one of them, correct, when we had the meeting, that she's part of leadership-wise, right? So we would have Mahoney. There were people that were going to be the supports for the Holyoke Ethnic Studies, just as they are for any other curriculum, be it ELA, math. We have those supports. You have to utilize them. Ms. Hayes, it wasn't for you to take on the brunt of everything. That's not what it was about. It was about working collaboratively because we want this program to succeed. We want it to expand into middle school. We have to start engaging our middle school students so that way they continue moving forward and actually wanting, have a better transition into the high school as well. Because we do lose a lot of that engagement starting at middle school. So once they get into 9th grade, guess what? A lot of our students start dropping out. A lot of students start dropping out. And it's mainly students of color. And it's not just here in Holyoke. It's all over the country. Okay? So from here on out, my expectation, like I had said, Ms. Burks would be the representative on the community advisory board, if that's what you guys call it. I mean, if you're saying that it's about people that want to work collaboratively, that's what the school committee's about. Then Ms. Burks is going to be there, be at those meetings. She's the one that's going to provide the updates to the school committee. And when there are issues, when there are concerns, they can be immediately addressed by Ms. Burks directly with the receiver, or bring it back to the school committee so we can see how we can help more the ethnic studies program to make sure that it does thrive and that our students are getting an equitable education. But this divide that we have right now, like, that needs to stop. Everybody needs to start working together. And I think what I would have said, I'm better off just not saying it, because this has really gotten to me over the weeks, and how we keep being told that the Holyoke School Committee doesn't care. Like, we don't want to hear from you. Yeah, you guys are giving me those looks, but that email was not shared with you by the person that runs your Holyoke Ethnic Studies email. So at the end of the day, I want all of you to know that are here from Holyoke Ethnic Studies that the school committee does care. We do want to hear from parents. We do want to hear from the students. You have our emails. Use them. Reach out to us. It doesn't have to wait till we have a meeting. If there's an issue, immediately reach out to us. It's better to address the problem quickly than to wait for a meeting to hopefully maybe get 50 views. If 50 people are watching it on the community access channel, I prefer to address the issue immediately. That's my personal opinion. I hope you don't take this personally. I have been frustrated a little bit with this topic because I really care about the program. I do support Palante as well. And I'm hoping that we can move forward from here. And again, Ms. Hayes, if there's any issues or anything, by all means, reach out to us. We can, and you have the receiver and Ms. Burks that'll be at those meetings. We can't all go because then it becomes a quorum. So some of us can trade off and maybe have 3 school committee members if they're able to attend. But we can't have too many in one room, especially when you're having a meeting where you're probably discussing things that might have votes. With that said, I'm done. I'm ending this topic. I thank you guys for coming. And hopefully we can start fresh and new as of today. And we can get you guys all the supports that you need from middle school all the way to the high school. Thank you for coming. We're going to go ahead and move to the next, which would be the Superintendent Receiver Reports Dual Language Task Force.
Thank you, Ms. LaFave. I thought it was, as many of you know, we have established a dual language task force to talk about the direction that we take our dual language program. And they've been working for a very long time, and I thought it'd be appropriate for Valerie Anir and her team to come to the school committee and just give an update as to, what the dual language task force has done so far, and what some of the next steps might be for that task force. Valerie?
Hi, thank you for having us join. Ms. Ann Day is going to join if she's able to. And in the meantime, I'm going to kick us off. So we, as a dual language task force, or as a district, had established a dual language task force back in February of 21. The goal of this team is to develop a long-range strategic plan that develops, strengthens, and expands our dual language programming. The team is co-led with the support of MABE, which is the Multi-State Association for Bilingual Education, their Northeast chapter. during our meetings, we formed what our goals would be, and then we prioritize those goals. And so for this year, we are currently working on informing the middle school expansion for dual language, and also developing what our program models and language allocation are across grade levels. These particular goals are met through 2 subcommittees. So we've split our membership into 2 teams to really refine and go deep into these 2 areas as work groups, and then they bring back the information to the full group, and we refine and reform our stance on our dual language programming. Our middle school expansion goals has been something that we started with. We developed as a full team middle school vision for dual language specific, what our language allocation and what our staffing models will look like, and then also how we continue to provide the correct format that allows us to have the most robust middle school program for our students. Some of the actions and timelines that we go through is we've been steeped in doing some research and analyzing our research. You can see the timeline here from when we began our team. A lot of that started with developing and refining our dual language vision and mission. We are currently analyzing feedback from other districts, from other programming, and using our research partners, MABE, to look at what our high quality programming, and then we will develop feedback as a committee and make recommendations to the superintendent. In that feedback stage is not just our committee providing feedback, but also an opportunity for us to engage and present some of our findings to our current and prospective dual language families, so that they're part of the decision-making process or information process as well. So I wanted to share with you a little bit more around what our committee is actually digging into. So our subcommittee members, some meet weekly or biweekly, or subsets of groups meet on a regular basis. We are conducting research on our own, including some of us are engaging in a book study. You see an image of the book study here. This is a text by Kohler and, oh my gosh, hold on, I'm missing it, Thomas and Collier. And this text is well known in dual language circles as being high quality, and it's used across the country. We are currently looking at transforming secondary education and looking at middle and high school models to inform our program here in Holyoke. We are also engaged in visiting different districts, having conversations, collaborative work time with them, interviewing them, collecting information on what has made their program successful, what we can learn from them, and then how we can partner and resource more. It's important to note that we are studying models outside of New England as well, but there are really strong established programs in states like New Mexico, Arizona, California, but our context is very different here in New England and in Massachusetts specifically. Two things that we deal with that may not be the same as those states I just mentioned is the fact that we're probably all familiar that there was basically a moratorium on teaching in any other language but English until more recently in Massachusetts. They also have much more success with hiring and staffing with bilingual staff based on the populations of those particular areas in the country. So while they have long-standing successes, some of their successful models are not as transferable to our current context. And so that's important when we're weighing the strengths and challenges with programming across the nation. We're trying to take information from programs that have been established that have similar context or restraints. We have a partnership with MABE, and they provide us with a level of resources. You can see here that based on their partnering with multiple districts across Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, there are no whole school middle schools. And what that means is there's no freestanding grades 5 through 8 or 6 through 8 school that is solely dual language. What we know across primarily Connecticut and Massachusetts is that there are 4 middle school strands within a school. What that is you have a larger middle school and you have a dual language strand. So there's the like a partial immersion opportunity for students who are in dual language. They receive their SLA, or for our purposes, it would be SLA, Spanish Language Arts. They are provided with an additional content area, sometimes social studies, sometimes science, depending on the staffing in that target language. And for us, that would be Spanish. And then they are able to explore other world languages or continue to study world languages in addition to that. That seems to be what the strand models are around areas in Massachusetts and in Connecticut. There is one whole school that MABE works with that has a dual language educational strand, but it's a K-8 program, a whole school that's a K-8, and that's in Somerville. And then there are 6 whole school full programs, full school dual language programs, and those are K-8. And so these are some of the districts we've been reaching out to and beginning to research with to inform our decision making. When we are meeting with the other districts and when we are digging into our own data as well, we're having discussions on what are the implications for our model on staffing, what are the implications on schedules, the course of study that we're able to offer to our students, what is the expanse of extracurricular activities and social emotional learning supports that we can put in place for our students. We analyze our data, our student outcome data, our enrollment numbers, what our attrition rate looks like in the language programming. And then we continue, as I mentioned before, to visit other schools to continue to learn and ask questions. We've hosted sessions with current and prospective, we're going to host sessions rather, with current and prospective dual language families, staff, and community. We're going to begin to schedule those in January and February. And we hope to share an overview of some of our research as a dual language task force, get family and community input, and then we plan to present Superintendent Soto with a recommendation this spring around what our dual language programming should look like for our middle school students. And before we open up for questions, the other thing I do want to mention is that this work is all done in conjunction with our middle school building committee. There's a lot of crossover, as you can imagine. And so we're making sure that there's touch points and the ability to collaborate with that committee as well. Additionally, while we did not mention high school models here, we do know that's probably going to be a question coming down the pike. And what we are doing is using next year as the year to, right now our focus is on middle school. Next year our focus will be on what opportunities do we have to provide our incoming dual language students into the high school. What does their advanced language learning pathways look like? And that's something that we will tackle next year and have it in place for the upcoming uprising freshmen the following year to be able to have some options. But we have only done some initial thinking around that, and our next steps with that is to engage the high school leadership and fully flesh out our plans. So we don't want to present anything on that until we're able to have that work session with them. Happy to take some questions if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions? And Valerie, I always have a problem with your last name. Anir. Okay.
I won't tell you, my father-in-law told me you have to think of a woman's name, Anne, and your ear. I think it's ridiculous, but it works.
That'll work. I thought it was something like fancy, like Anya, you know? Okay. Anya.
No fancy here.
Okay.
Ms. LaFave.
Mine is LaFave. I know. Mr. Wallahan.
I'll get your name right. Don't worry. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah. I just kind of think it's wise to kind of look forward. I mean, the program has been a success in the middle schools. I just think those students will be looking to take these classes going forward. So I just think expanding it is wise. Just getting kind of ahead of the curve right now and just making sure that the superintendent supports that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallahan. Mr. Cushing?
Yep. At the junior high level in Massachusetts, I remember there was some kind of a certification that students could receive. I think there were 3 different levels of certifications, and I'm sure you're going to be incorporating that into this plan, right?
I'm wondering if you're referring to the seal of biliteracy, which is one of the outcomes of our dual language programming for sure. And our students usually take the assessment for dual language or for the seal of biliteracy at the high school level. So I don't know if that is what you're referring to or not.
I think there's actually 2 other certifications at lower levels. I don't know if they have to take a class, but I recall there were 3 levels. But I'll
yeah, there are a few other avenues towards the seal. They're just not official. The official seal of biliteracy, our students are able to sit for and assess for at the high school level. But there are kind of like these stop points at younger grade levels where they can work towards that. But the official endorsement is the seal of biliteracy at high school.
Mr. Sheehan.
Just when you were discussing the kind of with middle schools and how there was no standalone middle school programs within basically the New England region, were you? I guess I don't know where you were getting at with that. Were you looking at it as a negative, or where were you going with that comment?
So we wanted to share where our current analysis and our current research is, and that's what we're currently digging into and what we've discovered so far, is that in this area, there are not standalone middle schools who are solely dual language. Some of the reasons, and we're still investigating this and doing further digging into that information, but when we've talked to districts like, for instance, Framingham, who has a 25-year history of running dual language programming, they probably have enough enrollment to turn an entire school into, they're much larger than us, right? But they could turn the entire middle school into a full dual language program. And they specifically choose not to because they feel that there's a lack of equitable access to resources if they were to do that. So they have made a very conscious decision to offer strands because it allows them to offer a much more robust program for all of their middle school students and allows peers to remain with one another and to learn and grow from one another. I bring that up because that was one of the initial interviews that one of the subcommittees had with a district that then led us into digging into, okay, well, what are other districts around New England doing and what does that look like? And so there was no judgment behind and no decision-making around sharing that with you. It's just right now, here's what we've been able to uncover and discover through our research, and we continue to work and analyze all of our options before making a recommendation. Yeah, so that's where our current body of research is right now.
I guess I don't see overall where it would be a bad thing to have it set up as a strand. I just see some definite legal concerns around having a single dual language school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're still digging in, and when we are able to have our meetings with the community and with our prospective and current dual language families, we'll have much more fleshed out analyses that we'll be sharing. And those are some of the questions that you bring up, is some of the questions that our committees are looking at as well. With the number one thing that we're looking at is that we want to make sure that whatever model we choose for our community, that equity is at the center of that decision making. So what provides our students, all students, with the most robust middle school experience that they deserve? And how does dual language play into that? How do we make sure that we are nurturing and continuing to grow our students in their middle school years, in their dual language program, and create to move on in high school and are able to engage in higher level language learning, be able to communicate, and we can completely increase our number of students who are receiving the seal of biliteracy. So those are going to be our main purpose, is that equitable access to robust programming, dual language, and more so, right? So we'll have much more information during those meetings because it gives us a little more time to continue our analysis, and we'll be able to answer some of those questions during those presentations.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Miss Anier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was about to say Anya again.
Anya.
I'd answer to just about anything, Miss LaFave, no worries.
So the next item on, thank you, Val, I appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is just a quick update on some of our Coven metrics. It's been, as of November 10th, it's been 54 days of school, and we've had 287 cases. And the number of cases possibly resulting in school transmission is 34. And in the past 2 weeks, we've had 26 cases, which there are actually 32. So 26 students and 6 staff, which is lower than it was, a month ago. So things appear to be trending in the right direction. But our vaccination rates continue to trail the states. So on the next slide, you can see what our vaccination rates by population, by age group, and what the state average is. And you can see that in every age group, we are trailing in terms of getting vaccinated as a community. I firmly believe, personally, that this getting vaccinated as a community is going to contribute greatly to a reduced number of cases resulting in like severe illness. We are working with the Holyoke Health Center to, as many of you know, there is now a vaccine available for students ages 5 and up. It is a very complex issue, unlike with older people. You need parent approval. Kids can't just show up and get a vaccine, right? So the complications of putting on a clinic like that are much greater than some of the clinics that we've already run for staff and for other adults in the community. But we are working with Holyoke Health Center. We don't have a date yet. And we are, the primary way for younger ones to get vaccinated is to work through their physician, and work with the Holyoke Health Center directly, or with other community agencies. But we are working together to create that opportunity for many of our students. We did have 2 clusters at Donahue where we did have to close down the classroom, and I think that's an example of us working swiftly and preventing a spread that could have been a lot worse. Immediately when we heard the news of, either I think there was four cases within the same classroom, we shut down the classroom and went to a remote model for an extended period of time, and we were able to pivot really quickly to that. We made sure students had devices, and the teacher was able to provide that instruction remotely. And like I said, I just want to reiterate, this is the first time we've had to do that since the start of the school year, but it is an example that our team is really looking in conjunction with the Holyoke Board of Health. We're really working with them and folks at the state to make these decisions, and we're working collaboratively. And unfortunately, that was something that we had to do, but it was good that we were able to do it quickly to minimize the amount of spread. I do feel an obligation to continue to urge our families that are willing. Please, I know there's a lot of misinformation out there on social media, a lot of misinformation in the news. Everywhere you look, there's misinformation. But please educate yourself. Talk to your physician. Talk to somebody you feel comfortable with. And if you're willing, get your student vaccinated, because that is something that is going to help, contain and stop the spread of this virus or anybody from getting severely ill. We're also encouraging staff and students to get the flu shot. It's a way to not overwhelm our health system. We've offered the flu shot at all of our schools. We've created opportunities to get that, and we just really want to encourage families to continue to take advantage of that and get the flu shot. As many of you know, the symptoms are very similar between flu and COVID, and we want to make sure that as a community, we're doing everything that we can to keep our students safe.
Sorry. And Mr. Wallhan?
Thank you for the update. Now, when you closed down the class at Donahue, did you have to get permission from Desi for that?
We did.
Was that in writing or just over the phone? How was the
Yeah,
feedback from them?
Anne Marie Stonick, I don't want to, I think I just butchered her last name, but we work with the emergency response team at the state. Our nursing team, our Holyoke Board of Health, work directly with the Desi's point of contact, who, she's great. She has my cell phone number. She called me that night and she said, "Look, I talked to the commissioner, and we would certainly support closing that classroom and that remote learning time counting towards learning time." Because as you all know, right now there's no remote option, and we're not allowed to do that unless a situation like this comes up and we get approval from them.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yeah, so, and I think that Holyoke Health Center is great, but I mean, just hearing these things like we're going to schedule something, like when? Because like Amherst has already done for 5 to 11-year-olds a flu clinic, COVID clinic. East Hampton, I think, has one coming up for students that are ages 5 to 11, and I'm sure they would have them available for older. I mean, places like, Chelsea, which is an urban community much like ours, has, I think, like an 80% student vaccination rate, and they're leading the state. Not only did they lead during COVID with the highest amount of COVID cases, but now they're leading the Commonwealth with the most amount of vaccinations. But like, when is this occurring? Because I feel like we were a little late getting our staff having those resources, even though we did it and we got it done. But I just think there could be more of a pushing campaign. We saw a lot more last year with pushing for the flu shot and for students getting that done. I haven't seen visible materials through the communications department, through anywhere, encouraging families and incentivizing families to get this done. So what are the steps that we're going to do to get students vaccinated, and when? Because just hearing we're trying, other places are trying and doing it.
Yeah, December 9th is the date, to answer your question. We are going to be putting on a clinic December 9th. We don't have a time or a place yet. Those are some of the logistics that we're working with Holyoke Health Center on. And we are also, I'm meeting with our human resource director, Beth Gage, tomorrow to talk about incentivizing, creating some sort of incentives.
I mean, Revere Math gave $250 to every single employee in the city that would present a fully vaccinated card. Mayor, you hear that?
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm meeting with Beth at 3:15, I believe, 3:30. But we're gonna solidify and come to an agreement on some sort of incentive package for not just the vaccine itself, but also signing up for the test and stay program.
Yeah.
Because that's a way to keep kids in school who become close contacts. It's sad that only 10% of our families are signed up for that. And honestly, they're signing up when their kids become close contacts.
Yeah, I know, and I saw the press that occurred in Amherst. I know Amherst is a different community, but they even set it up where it was mostly done after about 10:30 or so in the morning. It was very coordinated, where staff would come and get the student from the room. Their parent could be present if they wanted to be. If not, obviously they have to release. And then, if the parent wanted to take them home, they could take them home. I mean, it was also that, like, if you want to go, you can go. I also worry about the 9th being, like, you get the second shot 4 weeks later when those kids aren't even going to be in school, right? I mean, with their extended vacation, I mean, it's through, then they definitely won't be in school. So how are we going to capture these kids for this? If we're choosing December 9th, how are we going to capture these kids when we're not even in session?
Yeah, those are some of the logistics we got to work out, Devin. I appreciate you bringing that up, and I know that Mary Ann Courier is here with us today listening, as well as Cynthia Carboni. I mean, look, I wouldn't say it's a lack of effort that our vaccination rates are so low. We've offered plenty of opportunities for our families to, we ran a clinic at the Back to School program. We ran a clinic at Holyoke High. We ran our own staff clinic.
No, I know that, but we opened up this new category of students, and
Yes.
we should be, just so we don't overtax too, like that. I mean, why aren't we encouraging people and having staff help people sign up through CVS? I think that age can only go to CVS, right? I don't think Walgreens can service that age. I think
I did
whatever,
see Walgreens
it's whoever has
accepting.
what is it, Pfizer? You have to have Pfizer to be 5 to 11. Just pushing more of that and pushing the whole campaign on that.
Yeah.
And combining, I mean, also running flu clinics the same way. It seems like we're behind on this.
Yeah. I can take that back to our team. I will say that, we're a partner in this work. We're working closely with our local Board of Health and working closely with Holyoke Health Center, so to make things like that possible. But I'll definitely, I heard you loud and clear, and we'll bring that back to the team.
Yeah. Like I said, the date thing, I mean, so what, the day before Christmas is 3 weeks?
So I just want to say, I mean, it's not something that you kind of want to, be saying all the time, so that, but even if they get it a week after, 2 weeks after, it's just they can't get it before the 3 weeks, their second shot. So, I mean, even if they have to lag for another 2 more weeks, because then they come back to school, they can still get that vaccine. It's not that, that it has to stay within the 3 weeks.
My point was more education.
Right. Miss Brooks, I did see your hand up. Did you have something?
I was just wondering if we could partner with, like, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, like, that way when moms and dads are going to pick up, they would be able to sign off and allow the student to have the shot. So if we're looking to do a clinic, if we set it up at places like that, and when parents are going to pick up and they're realizing that it's an option, they might go for it. So, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of, like, parent pickup after school sites that I think might give us a little bit more success, because the parents will be there to sign off.
Yeah, listen, I'll bring all of this feedback back to our local Board of Health, and we'll continue to collaborate with them. I think these are great ideas, And I know Mary Ann's on the call. I don't know if she has anything to add, but she's certainly listening.
Ms. Tensley
I am
Williams?
Mary Anthony.
Oh, sorry, Mary Ann. Hey,
Oh.
how are you?
Hi, Mildred.
You have something?
I just want to add that so we have actually been working for weeks with the Holyoke Health Center on setting up a clinic. Part of the desire from the health center, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I will summarize that they really wanted to work within their office and with local pediatricians to first work with their families to get them in their own offices to be able to do vaccinations. The feeling was that many of our families would be more comfortable going into the office and to see that the staff that they know and are familiar with, since parents do need to be present for distributing vaccinations. But the health center is very committed to working with us to put on a clinic. And again, like Anthony said, we're working out those details of when and where it would be on December 9th. But that's just a little bit of the background. But we have posted on social media as well as in our Holyoke update around how families can access vaccinations, the links to be able to see the different locations where they are available for children. So that is something that is out on social media and that we will continue to push out regularly so that our families have access. I'll bring back all of your concerns to our team for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Courier.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Sheehan.
Maybe this is more for the mayor too, and sorry to jump on you in 12 hours on the job, 14 hours on the job, but over the summer we received phone calls all the time about vaccine clinics, and you probably all remember getting the text messages, the phone. It happened a lot. Even if we can promote out something like that, saying these age categories are now eligible, follow this link to the Mass Vax site or the City Board of Health, like whatever it may be, to use that as another point of contact for citywide, just to push it. Whether there's a clinic or not, just saying, like, here's where to find the vaccine. And if there's places like, some people, the website's gotten better, the Mass Vax website and the registration, but even any resources, if a family needs assistance with actually, like, registering to receive the vaccine.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Tensley Williams?
I just need to ask a question. They would like for you to take the shot 3 weeks later. And I want to ask Devin, okay, if they take it December 9th, how long will they be out of school before they have to take the next one? Because I took my second shot 41 days later, because in the beginning I was flipping and flopping. I called my doctor 3 times. She said, go ahead and take it. So the second one, the Moderna shot, I took it 41 days later. Now I wouldn't want other people to take it 41 days later, but
They won't miss any school.
Oh, okay.
They just have to get it 3 or 4 weeks later.
Oh, okay.
So another thing, I don't know, like you guys talked about the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club, stuff like that, but even getting that test and stay, all that kind of information. I'm trying to look here because I know I saw it, but the Kelly Community Dinner, you get a lot of participation, a lot of families coming. That's a way to get, if you want them to sign up for the test and stay or give the information on your December 9th clinic, vaccine clinic. Just looking at different areas to do that. Ms. Burks?
Just one other piece. I keep hearing Holyoke Health Center, but when we're talking about that age bracket, Holyoke Health Center is not the only group that actually services the majority of our students. They do some, not the majority. That's just not true. And we have Holyoke Pediatrics, we have Fairview Pediatrics, we have Bay State Pediatrics. There's a large system of providers that service our students. So if our only reach out is to Holyoke Health Center, we are not going to capture these kids and these families like we need to. So that's just a point of concern for me when I constantly hear just Holyoke Health Center, because we do have a lot of providers in this area that service our children.
Ms. Feliciano Sims?
I just also had an idea too. Reaching out families. Most of us all have board pages, Facebook pages. One thing is to, maybe when you guys set a date and time and everything else, is to shoot it out to the city councils, the school committees, because like I said, everything I get from the, things that I get from you guys, from the department, I try to put on our Facebook page, and so it's easy to capture some of our constituents and stuff like that. So again, it's just an idea. I mean, I've noticed every one of our wards has different kind of social pages that can really help out and get the word for you guys.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So that's it for COVID.
Yeah, so the next item on the agenda is I want to give a brief update on, I'm sure the school committee has been hearing it from parents, hearing it from constituents, seeing about it in the news. It's not unique to Holyoke. There's a heightened level of behavioral issues that we've seen, and not just Holyoke, but across the nation. And I wanted to reiterate with the school committee, or at least show the school committee what supports we currently already had in place and what we've done in response to some of the issues that we've experienced. And part of it has been staffing concerns. Remember we talked about some of the staffing and how challenging it was. But one thing we have done this year, and we started the year with, we had increased the number of counseling supports in each school. So we made sure that every single school had at least had an adjustment counselor, every K-8 school, in the high schools. We did implement the new curriculum called Trails that each school is required to deliver. I will say that after surveying a lot of the schools, we're really inconsistent in where schools are at in the implementation of that new curriculum. And that is something that we're going to be looking at really closely in the next few weeks, so that we know exactly where Metcalf is with their Trails curriculum versus Lawrence versus Ian White versus Holyoke High. Every K-8 school has a PBIS or some sort of student incentive program to promote productive and positive social behaviors. Every K-8 school. They're not all using PBIS, but they have some sort of incentive program to promote productive and positive social behavior. We do have 2 district-wide behavior support specialists, and as of today, as of last week, they have already done 60 observations and consults, providing feedback to schools and their support teams so that we can strengthen our support at each of the schools. We do have the BRIGHT program at Peck, Lawrence, Sullivan, Holyoke High North Campus, and Kelly. And then, we've always had the employee assistance program as well for our employees. As far as additional supports, since the start of the school year, we did add, at Holyoke High North Campus, we added an additional assistant principal, an adjustment counselor, and a student support coordinator. There were 4 district-wide behavior support paras that we budgeted for this current year. And one thing that I learned in talking to a lot of our student support teams is that the reason some of them are work and the reason why some of them are effective is because of the relationships that they're building with the kids. And in order to do that, you have to be there every day. So one of the changes that I made a couple of weeks ago is I took those 4 vacancies that we had, because we hadn't been able to fill them, and I instead of having 4 district-wide vacancies, here's a team, okay, something's going on at STEM, let's go, that team can go support. I don't think that would be an effective method, because those people they're not there with the kids every single day, building trust, building relationships. So we've deployed those 4 positions to as an additional support. So we put 1 at McMahon, 1 at Sullivan, 1 at STEM, and 1 at the North Campus that I just talked about. In addition to that, we are stipending our behavior support paras across the entire district. They're going to receive a stipend of $4,000 because we know, this year has been incredibly difficult with what they've been dealing with, and we want to retain them. We want to make sure they stay with us. And like I said, we've had 4 positions vacant all year that we haven't been able to fill. So we're hoping that this additional stipend would help us fill these very desperately needed positions. Our SEL director is working on really laying out for me and for the community at large what our Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 supports are at every single school, so that anybody in the community could look and see what SEL and behavior supports exist by school. I've also asked parents and teachers. You all, most of you have seen that wellness challenge or the hashtag #BeKindHPS. In my video, I've asked teachers and parents to review the student handbook with their students so that they can understand basic expectations and potential consequences for violations of the student handbook. I've tapped, I've tapped our teacher advisory group. Our teacher advisory group, we have one teacher advisor, member of the teacher advisory group at each school. They're surveying their peers on 3 things around SEL and behavioral supports. What are we doing well that we should continue to build on? What should we stop doing, and what are we not doing that we need to start doing? So I'm hoping, and I look forward to meeting with the teacher advisory group to take a look at those results, see what our teachers have to say and staff in the building about how we're supporting our students emotionally and behaviorally, and staff. We did put on that Pathway to Kindness challenge, and the idea behind that is that I walk the schools, very often. Every week I'm walking at least a couple of schools, and I see a lot of kindness, a lot of respect going on. You don't hear about it. You tend to hear about the negative things that are going on. But man, every time I walk through a school, there's some really good things happening, and I want to capture that, and advertise it. And then we put this wellness package together. Our staff and our students are just coming back from what we called Wellness Weekend. So I adjusted the calendar, and we gave November 12th off. November 11th was already a holiday, and I've received a lot of very positive feedback from staff and from families on thank you for listening, because that was a direct result of me going around during this entry planning, listening to staff, and us responding as a district to what we were hearing. And we created a small stipend of $125 for anybody that was with us for the last year and till now, just to thank them and take advantage of this wellness weekend. Go have a spa day, get a hair, do whatever it is that you want to do that makes you happy. We asked staff to do that this past weekend, and they not only have this weekend, but obviously Thanksgiving break is going to be a longer weekend as well. So I'm really hoping that package had an impact on staff. So far, and students. So far, I've had some really positive feedback on that. And then the biggest thing I want to mention is that this is going on everywhere. And this is going to be a long road ahead. We're not going to solve these issues. We're not going to fix what everyone went through during the pandemic over the last year and a half. We're not going to fix it overnight. It's going to take some time. These are just some of the things that we've done so far, but we got a long way to go, and we really got to figure out how to support our students' SEL and behavioral needs. And the last thing that I haven't really announced, this is like breaking news right now, is that this is breaking news, but our kids need more to do after school, and I am opening up our gyms to I'm working with Papo over at Sullivan School, Miguel Vasquez. We're trying to figure out. We want to open our schools from like 4 to 8 or 5 to 8. We don't know. I don't want to. We haven't worked out the logistics. But what I want to see is at Kelly, at Morgan, at Lawrence, at Donahue, at Sullivan, a place where our kids can go and release some stress and do some things that I know when I was a kid, I used to look forward to, and I was lucky enough to have a YMCA membership. I used to look forward to teen night, and that was the only night that I would look forward to. Teen night was a night where I could go to the YMCA and I could go swimming or go play basketball and just have fun, do some of the things that I love to do. And I don't see that opportunity very often for our middle school students. I am going to say that it is very specific to our students. I'm not opening the gyms for adults to come in and run adult basketball programs or anything like that. I really want to work with, and we are going to be looking for volunteers. I already have a solid volunteer at Sullivan School that is going to be there every couple days, and he's working his connections as well to find people where we could do it at all of our neighborhood schools and really provide that opportunity. I think, personally, I think that that's going to have a huge impact on students and how they come in the next day to school. They're exercising, and we have a great opportunity if we see large participation at all of our schools in those neighborhoods to do more than just play basketball. We have an opportunity to create some really good programs there. I'll be honest with you, it is competing with a lot of things. You're going to have people that, normally had rented gym space, like the CYOs and other organizations that had space. And what I want to do is I want to open it up to everybody, not just people that are a part of that league, not just people that are part of a certain organization. I want to create a space where our kids can come and just have fun, and obviously in a safe way. So I haven't worked through those logistics yet, but I am meeting with my team, and I'm meeting with Papa. We're going to talk about and trying to get support to be able to do that at other schools. And I think it's going to have a huge impact on what we're seeing today.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Miss Rosalie Tensley Williams.
Mrs. Soto, could you call me when you, because my neighbor is 21 years old, and he wants to be a referee, and he also met with the acting mayor a couple of weeks ago. And let me know, because he would love to get involved.
Sure thing.
Miss Burks.
I know we have a long-standing relationship with some of our CYO and everything with using our gym space. Is there a way that we could do this where, we're not losing that relationship, so we're meeting the needs of the kids, but also meeting the needs and keeping that long-standing relationship? Because I know for like our CYO league, they used to practice at Guadalupe. Church, they can't, which is why they started using our schools. So I'm just a little concerned. I think it's a great plan. Love that we're going to open the gyms. I'm hoping you're going to staff this with people that are going to give the kids activities and keep them busy. But I am really, really concerned when we're saying that, people in partnerships that used to do it aren't going to be able to. That concerns me. Because we have some really long-standing relationships with these programs that have done a lot for our families. They've, where families can't afford it, they've, helped them not have to pay. Like, they've done a lot.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's kind of a slap in the face to them. So I just want to really be mindful that we can go forward with a new plan, but it's like everything in life. You need to respect your past to move forward. So I just want to make sure that we're balancing there.
I never said I was not going to let we are. I'm just, we're going to have to work with the schedule that they, I don't know exactly how many days they're looking for, but one thing that So I'm not shutting them out. Like, no, not at all. We've already had a conversation. That organization is going to be renting gyms. We just got to figure out a schedule that works to be able to support not just people that sign up for that league, but kids in the community that really need that space and need that outlet. So I'm going to work with them. We're not, at no point did I suggest or say that they were, maybe they don't get 5 days a week, they get 3 instead of 5.
So I'm a little confused and concerned.
Well, we're not renting gyms to outside organizations. We are working with the CYO and that organization. If we have organizations from Springfield or from Chicopee or from East Hampton that want to use our space, we apologize, but at this point, we're not renting gyms for outside organizations. Just Holyoke organizations. The one that has reached, so the one that I know of for sure is going to be the South Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative and Ed Casey, and then CYO. Those are the 2 Holyoke organizations that have already reached out, and yeah, we want to support them. It's not about us competing with their program. It's about us also creating access to other students as well. And that's important to me, and I think it really is. And I've heard this from so many, I've heard this from school committee members. I've heard this from city councilors. I've heard this from former friends like Anthony. When are we going to open our gym? I'm not even talking pandemic-wise. This is like, even before the pandemic, there wasn't really a place for kids to go play in the winter. And there used to be. And I want to bring it back to Holyoke. I think it's important.
What about Holyoke Parks and Rec? Are they also able to use it, or that's part of the no?
Holyoke Parks and Rec, they haven't reached out for. I mean, CYO is the organization that has reached out. I don't recall Parks and Rec running basketball programs during the winter, but they haven't for gyms.
I spoke to Terry Shepard a few weeks ago, and I think they will be able to. I'll talk to her again. Terry Shepard, she's the director of Parks and Rec.
I haven't heard. I haven't gotten a request from the Parks and Rec for renting space, but again, we're gonna have to make this balance. One thing that I'm not wavering on is that we need maybe we don't do Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe we just pick one day out of the week, so that everybody. But I want to create open gym in the Flats, in South Holyoke, in the Lawrence neighborhood, and the Tokaniki neighborhood, and the Jarvis Heights neighborhood. I want to create that opportunity for our kids because right now it doesn't exist.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Wellhand.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. Just to go back to the update for students' behavior. I mean, that's kind of going on nationwide, like you said, and it's really not just the students; it's adults too. Okay, you're having instances in malls, airlines, airports. So it's not just the students; it's something nationwide that the COVID is affecting people in a negative way. So I just want people to realize that it's not just the students. I was happy to see that you had the stipend for the $4,000. I was really concerned about the vacancies for the counselors. That's been going on all year. Having trouble filling those. So hopefully that'll help out in that program. And like I said, having the same counselors there each semester, each year, that's going to help out too, because the students are like to know the person. So that's important too. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallhan. No further questions, comments? Okay. Well, first we have to move to the new business. So just to let you guys know, I'm sorry, the meeting minutes were not attached, so we have to pass that. We'll bring forward the meeting minutes at our December meeting, so we can go ahead and approve those and finish with that. So moving on to ongoing business, the Dean property transfer. Mr. Walhan.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of spoke with the engineer today to kind of hopefully they come to the meeting tonight to kind of give us an update, and he had 2 other meetings that he was attending tonight, so that wasn't possible. The issue is on the agenda for the November 30th meeting between the joint committee of the schools and the city council. So I'm hoping to have that, this can be vetted at that program, and I'm hoping that the city council will be there with the schools. We can kind of discuss the pros and cons of the transfer. The engineer hopefully will be there to kind of give some insight on his opinion on the development of the site. And I'm not sure if our new mayor has been updated on this or not. So probably we'll give him a chance to kind of learn the concern. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion to move this matter over to the joint school committee, city council. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion with a second. Are we doing roll call? Is there discussion? Mr. Sheehan?
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand why it would go to that committee. I mean, when you think about, like I said before, the property with schools, it's what we get to measure is there educational need and we need it or not? I mean, so is that solely what the joint committee is going to be discussing? Like, as a school committee, like, our purpose is not to discuss what's happening in a year, if it's going to be developed or not. Is there an educational need for the Holyoke Public Schools for this parcel A, B, and C that we need to use for an educational programming, or is there not? And I know that this has been like a can that has been being kicked down the road since July, I think, June or July. So I guess I just go back to, like, are we going to be using this property for education purpose? Do we as a district see a need to use this property for educational purposes?
Well, I mean, well.
Oh, Mr. Walhan.
Yeah, you kind of missed the last meeting that we kind of went back and forth with it. Some of the committee members had concerns about the development, the pros and cons. We tabled it that night. It's been tabled, like I said, a couple times, and I just think having the engineer there would kind of help out the committee's concerns with potential use of the land, whether it's for schools or for housing.
Then I guess I just see, instead of it going to the joint committee and then back to this committee, because, like, the joint committee can't do anything. I mean, Massachusetts general law says that we need to give the property back to the city. I mean, if that's the case, to streamline this whole thing, the engineer needs to be at our meeting. And we need to go into executive session, and we need to talk about property, and then we need to come out of executive session and vote on it. But being at the joint committee, which I'm not 100% sure who the members are on that, whether or not they make a recommendation, I mean, this is going to be February before this is decided on, if not late. I mean, it's just, when you think with timing and all that, I mean, it just seems like it's going on and on. Like, I would rather bring the engineer here than kick this to another subcommittee. That's my opinion.
Miss Hensley Williams?
I make a recommendation that we vote tonight.
Vote tonight for
this situation.
To
keep it or let it go. We don't need
Well, there's a motion on the floor now.
Oh, so right now we have a motion on the floor that we have to, through the vote, decide whether it's going to go to the joint school committee, city council or not. So we just had discussion. So why don't we go ahead with
It's already there. It's already on that agenda.
How did it get there?
Who's the chairman for that?
On the school committee side, it's Ms. Feliciano Sims, but did you put that on the agenda for over there?
It was attached when we were setting it up for Blonde Burgos and Gladys.
So
Not attached, yeah.
Is that the meeting that's coming up?
Yeah, the November 30th. We were supposed to originally have it November 22nd, but it
Okay.
couldn't align. I'm all for taking it
So-
off. We discussed it and moved on.
So I'm just wondering if by any chance one of the city councilors or the one that was recommending this, oh,
It's actually originally.
okay, so he put it onto the
So
joint.
that's why he was asking us about order last couple meetings. So it's one time that- why he kept bringing it up. Because he wanted to get. So it's been in front of the.
Okay.
I know it's on the other agenda, but why can't we? And bring that to the meeting, and then that squashes that part of the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so first we need to then nay the referring it because it's already there. So I mean,
The motion to withdraw their motion.
so I mean, put the motion to withdraw your motion. Okay, who put the first one? All right. So we got the motion to withdraw the motion, with a second. So I guess all those in favor? Aye.
No motion.
There's no motion.
If the maker of the motion
Now.
withdraws the motion, there's no vote.
Now for the Dean property transfer. And Ms. Tensley Williams, you're saying that you wanted to put a motion in
Yes,
to
ma'am.
vote
Tonight.
to have the transfer done, the Dean property transfer done.
We don't want it.
Oh wait, okay. But your motion
Yes,
is
yes, ma'am.
to vote on it tonight. The
Yes,
school committee to
yes.
vote on the Dean property transfer.
Please, senora.
Okay.
Senora.
Is there a second? So we have a second.
Hold on. Motion needs to be, and Sam, this is important.
It is.
So, and this has to be voted on at the next meeting. Like, these minutes have to be done for the December meeting. That the Holyoke School Committee, in its authority, transfers to the city of Holyoke on St. Vincent property on St. Vincent Avenue in Lot A, a 100-foot by 100-foot parcel of property. In Lot B, a 60-foot by 100-foot piece of property.
Oh, it's on the picture.
It's in the picture, in your packet.
Yep. So you put in each lot. So lot C.
And then Lot C, a 100 by 100-foot piece of property.
So that's how the motion would
Hold
be,
on.
right?
No, hold on. You got that on St. Vincent, those pieces of property. And that we have deemed that this property does not have or serves no need to the Holyoke Public Schools.
There's no educational purpose.
There's no need. I mean, that's the motion that Rosalie made.
Thank you.
Now, whether you agree with it or not,
Sí, senora.
So are we doing this one as a roll
It
call?
has to be a roll
Let's-
call.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And at the end of the motion, reference this map as an exhibit in that motion.
Can I have it attached? Niles, did you have a question?
I was going to suggest you should probably say A, B, and C. You would say as shown on plan.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, attached here too as Exhibit A or whatever. In that way. Yeah.
Mr. Collmore.
Have we done that?
So the engineer hasn't come here, but there were some members that did speak with the engineer. So what we're doing is we're voting, right? It's already on the agenda for November 30th with the Joint School Committee City Council. I don't know if they're inviting the engineer there, but we're already giving our decision here, whatever it turns out to be. It could turn out that it doesn't pass, but it's already on their agenda that, I mean, if you wanted to attend, have, and ask a question there, you could. But if it does pass today, that we are going to give it to the city, then they'll have that information at that meeting. So who knows if they'll move forward or not? I'm not sure. Mr. Sheehan.
The city cannot we couldn't do that the city can't give us property. We have to if we needed the property back from the city, we would need to request it from the city, and then the mayor would have an order filed, have to go to the city council, and we could get it back. The city puts in all of their contracts, whenever they go out, that they have that it reverts back to the city. But I mean, the city owns this property anyways, and they let us use it until we don't need it anymore. So we can't say in there after 5 years, if you do nothing with it, we as a school committee want it back, because it's always the city. The owner of the property is the city of Holyoke, who is basically letting us in a long-term lease until we say we don't need it. So we don't need to say it's their property, unless we think we're going to build a shed on there for Dean or whatever it may be. But I know we had a subcommittee that met about this with the mayor and I think someone from that discussed this, and it was they thought there could be some viable options for some sort of residential development.
No, it might not be zoned that way.
It's not. It has to do. It's not zoned for that. I think it's residential, right?
It is. Residential. Right now, it's our response.
That's how old you are, Rebecca.
Think about it. Since 1987, that piece of property has not been touched at all. At all. It's all of it. So that's what they were trying to say, and they're hoping to get. That's probably. house. Why not let them try it? They promised it was not going to be something dollars, but no, if they no, why not? Let's try.
Oh.
Let's take the vote.
All right, so this requires a roll call vote. So Ms. Garcia?
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
And
Yes.
LaFave?
Yes.
Here, Miss Hensley Williams?
Yes.
Miss Burks?
Yes.
Miss Feliciano Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Willihan?
Yes.
Mr. Callamore? Mr. Kershane?
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes unanimously. So the property transferred to the city for the Dean St. Vincent property. I'm sure they're happy that we're done with this. I know I'm happy it won't be on the agenda. Yes, we'll do that. I do have some announcements here. So everyone on the 16th, that'll be tomorrow, DPAC, which is the District Parent Advisory Committee meetings from 6 to 7. This is all via Zoom. On the 18th is the CPAC meeting from 6 to 7, and I believe it's on understanding your 504 and IEP, so it's great information for families that have children. With an IEP, or those in the process through the building-based supports team. And then the 18th to the 20th is the Holyoke High School Theater Company presents, not low level, just low budget, high school play from 7 to 9. Please make sure to get your tickets. It's going to be funny. It's going to be fun. Let's go support our students. I don't believe there's any other further announcements. Is there? Oh, wait, Ms. Burks, sorry.
We're forgetting next Thursday is Thanksgiving, and the annual Holyoke versus South Hadley game is a home game this year. So come out, support the Holyoke Purple Knights against South Hadley for our Thanksgiving game.
And I just do want to remind everyone, next month we are going to invite back Mr. Terrence Murphy. We want to make sure that we give him a thank you, as well as Miss LaFond, to our next meeting. So we have a few people that also better be here next month, as we thank them for their service and being on the school committee with us. Oh, Miss Hensley Williams.
I know Devin wants to go home, so I'm gonna make it quick.
What happened?
This
It is 9:30.
Oh, Tom!
I'm dedicating this poem to the children in Holyoke. I wrote it January 15th.
Okay.
2021 at 2:44 p.m. And it says, "You will never outgrow your need to read. Do you know your ABCs? I hope that you did not forget that they are called the alphabet. It doesn't matter what grade you're in, the alphabet can be your friend. When you know your ABCs, they can teach you how to read. If you can read, you will know the wonders of nature and how things grow. Do not miss out on your chance. If you can read, you will advance. When you travel near or far, the alphabet will be your star. If you are not sure of what to do, reading directions can guide you through. Never give up, and you can succeed, because you will never outgrow your need to read." Thank you.
That was cool.
Thank you.
Wasn't last month's like an ABC one too?
I think last month was A Book Can Save the Day. I don't know. I wrote a bunch of them.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Oh, wait, Mr. Collimore, did you have something? I'm sorry. I think so. I don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
And
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I kept them in. I wasn't sure, so I
Yeah.
just kept them there.
Yeah. It was really good. So we have a motion to adjourn.
Sorry. It is 9:30.
Second. So motion to all those in favor say aye. Everybody's tired. Thank you, everyone. Motion passes unanimously. Have a good night.